in Konoha. At first, I annihilated the Sarutobi clan. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 151. The third generation wants to abdicate early. Who knows? The most important thing now is to find that Anbu for me. Jiraiya looked around, deeply imprinted everyone's face and identity in his mind. His expression suddenly turned cold, and he said half threateningly, in addition, this matter is of great importance. No one present, including me, is allowed to leak what happened today. Otherwise, don't blame me, Jiraiya, for being ruthless. Yes, Lord Jiraiya. Feeling the coldness in Jiraiya's eyes, everyone looked at each other, their throats rolled, and they swallowed hard, and nodded in agreement. After getting everyone's guarantee, Jiraiya breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. After everyone dispersed, he couldn't help but turn his head to look at the Hokage gate behind him, thinking to himself, old man, I can only help you so much. It didn't take long. Under Shikaku's arrangement, the Anbu soon found the cat-faced masked Anbu ninja that everyone was talking about. It's just that it wasn't Kanai himself. It was Naquin, who had lost consciousness and was mentioned by Sarutobi Hiruzen. He has been unconscious for more than an hour. It seems that he is not him. Jiraiya squatted down and carefully observed him. He frowned and stood up to ask the Anbu ninja who found him, where did you find him? In the locker of the Anbu base. The Anbu ninja said respectfully. Master Jiraiya, what should we do now? Shikaku asked cautiously. Hearing this, Jiraiya rolled his eyes. When did you, a Konoha think tank, start to be so indecisive? Please forgive me, Master Jiraiya. Shikaku smiled bitterly. In fact, this matter involved 4 Konoha high-level officials. It was too sensitive. He had to be cautious step by step. After all, the Uchiha family's previous experience was there. The many Sharingans on Danzo's right arm were the best proof. Okay, I know what you are worried about. You go back first. I will take full charge of this matter. Jiraiya waved his hand impatiently. Thank you, Jiraiya-sama. Hearing this, Shikaku felt as if he had been pardoned. He thanked him respectfully and disappeared in a flash. At this moment, the Hokage building was a powder keg. Once it exploded, I don't know how many people would die. I must quickly get away from this place of trouble. He is really a guy who knows how to protect himself. Looking at the place where Shikaku disappeared, Jiraiya curled his lips and turned his head to look at the Anbu before you try to wake him up and see if you can ask anything. Yes, Jiraiya-sama. The Anbu ninja responded respectfully, carrying the Anbu ninja named Naquin, and disappeared in front of the Hokage's office. At this time, the voice of the third Hokage finally sounded in the Hokage's office. Jiraiya should still be outside, coming quickly. Perhaps because of the previous severe consumption, or because of social death. At this moment, Sarutobi Hiruzen's voice was very weak and old, as if he was dying, without a trace of life. Hearing this, Jiraiya hesitated for a moment, and pushed the door open. I saw Sarutobi Hiruzen, Uchiha Koharu, and Mitokado N, all dressed up. The office was spotlessly clean. The smell of heather was also removed. The only difference was that Uchiha Koharu's coat was missing, and Danzo hurriedly took it away. The three of them looked gloomy, and their cloudy old eyes were full of bloodshot. Obviously, while Jiraiya was comforting the heads of the major families, the three old guys were not having a good time, and they were suffering in their hearts. Jiraiya, I have decided that you will take over the position of the 5th Hokage. This was the first sentence Sarutobi Hiruzen said after Jiraiya entered the room. No, I'm not interested. Jiraiya's face froze, and he refused without hesitation, turning around and grabbing the office door, turning it counterclockwise. Jiraiya, you should know that no matter who is the culprit, after what happened just now, no matter what, I'm no longer suitable to be the Hokage. However, before Jiraiya could open the door, Sarutobi Hiruzen's voice sounded again behind him. I know, but it's really unfortunate. I'm not that kind of person. Jiraiya didn't turn around and said with his back to the three of them, this is a joint decision of the three of us. Mitokado En said sternly, and if a ninja, like you can't be praised as the three ninjas, who else can take the position? Utatane Koharu added, Jiraiya, you should know what everything that just happened means. Especially Danzo's right arm, this has touched the bottom line of the major families. If it's not handled properly, Konoha will face a greater disaster than Orochimaru and Fujiwara Chiya. So, how do you plan to deal with the Danzo matter? Jiraiya finally turned around and glanced at Sarutobi Hiruzen and the other two. I will give everyone an explanation for this matter. Sarutobi Hiruzen stood up. That sentence again. If it weren't for your acquiescence and connivance, Konoha wouldn't have done so many things, and in the end even the Sarutobi family that I worked hard to run for half a lifetime would lose it. Maybe this is retribution. Jiraiya shrugged slightly, and there was undisguised sarcasm in his words. So what's your answer? Sarutobi Hiruzen ignored Jiraiya's ridicule and returned to the previous topic. Let's not talk about this anymore. Jiraiya shook his head. Without waiting for Sarutobi Hiruzen to reply, he raised his right hand and made a pause gesture. Besides, isn't there still one person among the three ninjas? That guy Tsunade. Hearing this, Sarutobi Hiruzen, Utatane Koharu, and Mitokado En looked at each other, and Tsunade's figure appeared in their minds. They nodded at the same time. Mitokado En said hesitantly, the girl does have this ability, but no one knows her whereabouts. I'll go find her. Isn't that enough? Jiraiya clenched his right fist and pointed his thumb at himself. No, Orochimaru has already sneaked into the village. As one of the three ninjas, you must shoulder the responsibility of guarding Konoha. What's more, there is a Fujiwara Chiya in secret, whose intentions are unclear. He seems to have joined a certain organization. With his strength, the threat is greater than Orochimaru. Maybe we were caused by that guy this time. He has this motive. Utatane Koharu refused decisively. Jiraiya smiled confidently. Don't worry, I will be back before the Chunin exam starts. I know that guy Orochimaru. Even if he really wants to take action, it will be in the official Chunin exam, in front of the princes and heads of state, in a life and death duel with the old man in front of everyone. As for the young man Fujiwara Chiya who was forced to defect by you old guys, he does have this motive. In fact, I'm absolutely sure that he was the one who did it today. But his purpose should be just to retaliate against you Konoha high level officials, and he has already achieved it. Seeing that you old guys have ended up in this situation today, even I can't help but feel a little sympathetic to you. Moreover, I also found out that Orochimaru was once a member of the organization that the young man joined. The two must have some connection in this Chunin exam. Maybe they even reached a consensus. In other words, Konoha is safe before the official Chunin exam begins. PS. The fifth update. Please vote for recommendation and monthly vote. Chapter 152 Goodbye Hinata. No, this is just your wishful thinking. After hearing Jiraiya's words, Utatane Koharu refused without hesitation. Okay. However, before she could finish her words, she was interrupted by Sarutobi Hiruzen. Hiruzen, why are you starting to imitate Jiraiya's nonsense? Utatane Koharu looked at Sarutobi Hiruzen with dissatisfaction and recalled the previous revelry in her mind, and a hint of blush passed over her old face. It's not nonsense. Jiraiya doesn't want to, and we can't force him. Sarutobi Hiruzen's eyes were uncertain, and no one knew what he was thinking. It seems that the old man knows me best. Jiraiya clenched his fist and extended his thumb, and his face returned to the usual lecherous smile. Compared to me who has no motivation, Tsunade, who has outstanding abilities, is more suitable for this position. Then when are you going to leave? Sarutobi Hiruzen asked Jiraiya. Time waits for no one. Jiraiya sighed. Let's do it tomorrow morning. Seeing that the two had already made up their minds, Mizuto Kaden had no choice but to comply. However, in order to prevent Jiraiya from escaping, he immediately added, this is the only way we can do now. However, as a team searching for Tsunade, we have to send 3 Anbu to follow. Jiraiya seemed to see through what Mizuto Kaden was thinking, and smiled. Don't worry, I won't run away this time. However, I hope to take someone with me on the road. Take who? Mizuto Kaden was stunned. The orphan of the 4th generation, Uzumaki Naruto. Speaking of Naruto, Jiraiya also thought of Tsunade's younger brother Naoki. He saw the shadow of Naoki in Naruto. Both of them kept nagging about becoming Hokage all day long. If Naruto was there, the chances of persuading Tsunade to return to the village would be infinitely magnified. Of course, if he knew that Tsunade was already a wife and a mother, he probably wouldn't think so. It seems that old man Sarutobi Hiruzen has been forced into a desperate situation. He actually thought of abdicating early. I wonder what Jiraiya will think when he sees that Tsunade is pregnant with my child. That expression must be very interesting. After tricking Sarutobi Hiruzen, Chiya did not go back to the hot spring hotel directly. Instead, he used his observation haki to listen to the conversation in the Hokage building all the way to the Konoha hospital, Hinata's ward. It was late at night. The moon was like a silver plate, and the sky was full of stars. Because of the battle with Hyuga Neji and the preliminaries of the Chunin exam, Hinata overused her Byakugan to fight in an overloaded battle. Just like in the original work, she was temporarily blinded. As the team leader, Kyuubi guarded the hospital all night to take care of Hinata. Her eyes were bandaged, she was wearing a light pink women's hospital gown, and her white and tender feet were bare. Hinata walked along the wall to the table and began to explore with her jade hands. Are you thirsty? Looking at the water cup and teapot on the table, Kyuubi pushed them over one by one, and at the same time, took out a fairy bean from the system warehouse, crushed it into powder, and put it into the water cup. Hinata, who didn't know anything, carefully poured herself a glass of water. She seemed to notice someone and asked hesitantly, is anyone here? Is it Teacher Han? The ethereal voice was crisp and pleasant, giving people a feeling of cleansing the soul. Kyuubi didn't answer, but just sat opposite the table, quietly watching Hinata's cute appearance. It's an illusion. Hinata sighed lightly, picked up the water cup, and drank it slowly. The next moment, a warm current instantly swept through her eyes and even her whole body. Hinata only felt a burst of comfort in her body, and her condition was better than ever. Even the eyes, that were slightly stinging due to temporary blindness, have regained clarity, and the chakra flow of the white eyes has returned to normal. At this moment, Kyuubi, who went home to confirm whether Kyuubi had returned to her residence, walked in. Seeing Kyuubi appear here, she was suddenly startled, as if she was afraid of disturbing Hinata or exposing Kyuubi's whereabouts, and hurriedly covered her mouth. However, Kyuubi did not play by the rules and greeted calmly, hey, Teacher Han. Hinata subconsciously untied the bandage when she heard the familiar voice, and when she saw the familiar face in front of her, she was stunned for a moment. Seeing this, Zahihang thought Hinata was frightened by Kyuubi and did not bother to blame Hinata for untying the bandage, and hurriedly explained, Hinata, don't misunderstand. Kyuubi is not a bad person. However, Hinata seemed not to hear Zahihang's words, and slowly walked to Kyuubi. Big brother, is it really you? Am I dreaming? The ethereal voice asked twice, but her beautiful voice was trembling violently at this time, and tears flowed uncontrollably along her slightly pale and tender face, and the whole person was already in extreme excitement. Under Kyuubi's astonished gaze, she suddenly threw herself into Kyuubi's arms and burst into tears, crying and saying, I'm so happy big brother, you're not dead, you're not dead. Kyuubi was also a little surprised. Even with his calmness, he never thought that the little girl who, in his impression, would blush and faint after talking to a boy she liked, would do such a thing. In fact, it's not Kyuubi's fault that he was puzzled. After all, he faked his death, and even Kyuubi, Kakashi and others mistakenly thought he was dead. How could Hinata be an exception? And because of the injury in the preliminaries, no one has had time to tell Hinata about the forest of death. Until the moment before, she thought Kyuubi was really dead. Faced with this kind of pain of loss and recovery, how could she not be excited? How could she not cry with joy? Kyuubi gently stroked Hinata's little head. Aren't you afraid of me? Hinata, I'm an S-rank rebel. Hinata held back tears and shook her head vigorously. I'm not afraid. I always believe that you are a good person, big brother. A good person. I'm not. Kyuubi showed a self-deprecating smile on his face, and couldn't help but sigh in his heart that this is really a simple little girl. If even he is a good person, then there are probably no bad people in this world. Zahang's voice with doubt and shock, and a hint of jealousy. "Hinata, what are you doing?" From the conversation between the two, Zahang heard that Kainai and Hinata knew each other. But she couldn't figure out how the two knew each other, and why she didn't know anything at all. Hearing this, Hinata finally reacted. Seeing that she was in Kainai's arms at this moment, with her hands still tightly hugging each other, her pretty face was stained with a layer of blush at a speed visible to the naked eye. The next moment, hot air came out of her head, and she fell backwards straight, caught by Kainai, and fell into a brief coma. It seems that she is still the same. She is really a shy girl. Looking at Hinata's shy appearance, Kainai smiled gently, picked her up like a princess, and carefully put her on the bed. PS. First update, please recommend and vote for me. Chapter 153 Hinata and Yuhi Kurenoi, a major car accident scene. Kainai, won't you explain? Yuhi Kurenoi appeared behind Kainai like a ghost, with her jade hand on his shoulder, and the word jealousy was almost written on her face. Kainai pulled Yuhi Kurenoi to sit on the nearby bed. "It's nothing." As he spoke, he told her about his two encounters with Hinata. "Oh no, encounters? Is it really just like that?" A trace of suspicion flashed across Yuhi Kurenoi's eyes. She knew exactly what kind of person Kainai was. He had just graduated from the ninja school, at the age of 11, and dared to tease her, a teacher who was nearly 10 years older than him. He succeeded not long ago. With Hinata's cute appearance now, she didn't believe that Kainai would not be tempted. Of course. Kainai looked at Yuhi Kurenoi with ill intentions. "Don't mess around. This is a hospital." Yuhi Kurenoi was suddenly startled, and a trace of panic flashed across her eyes. Kainai smiled and said, "Don't worry, I'm not so hungry that I'll eat anything. The reason I came here specially this time is nothing more than to treat this girl's injuries, and I won't do anything else." "Is Hinata's injury healed?" Zahihang looked incredulous. Kainai nodded slowly. "You'll know if you go and take a look." Hearing this, Zahihang hurried to Hinata's bed and checked it. She was surprised to find that Hinata's injury was actually healed, and she couldn't help but be shocked. She looked back at Kainai. "How did you do it?" As a former medical ninja, how could she not know how serious Hinata's injury was? In her opinion, even if Hinata's injury recovered quickly, it would take at least a month. And she went home, and it took no more than half an hour to go back and forth, and Kainai cured it, which was really incredible. It was cured just like that. Kainai kept it a secret. "I really don't know what you have learned outside these years." At this point, Yuhi Kurenoi seemed to think of something again, turned her head to look in the direction of Rock Lee's ward, and said hesitantly, "Kainai, can I ask you a favor? You probably want me to see Rock Lee's injuries." Kainai smiled slightly. "If it's him, I think it's not necessary, because soon there will be someone more suitable than me to heal him. You should also know this person. She is the Slug Princess, Tsunade, one of the 3 ninjas. Although curing Rock Lee's hands and feet that were crushed by Gara-san is just a matter of a senzu bean for Kainai, he does not intend to do so. Since his other woman is going to be the Hokage, she needs to do something that Konoha can believe, right? Even if she gives senzu beans, she needs to maximize the benefits. At worst, when Tsunade has surgery, she will give her a senzu bean to be on the safe side. Is it her? Zahihang was suddenly startled and asked in disbelief, "But didn't that adult leave Konoha many years ago?" "That was in the past. Soon, Tsunade will return to Konoha to take over the 5th Hokage." Kainai replied. "The 5th Hokage? What is going on?" Zahihang was getting more and more confused. Kainai didn't keep her in suspense. He waved to Zahihang, leaned close to her ear, and told her what he had done tonight. Hearing Kainai's words, Zahihang was shocked. Suddenly, her pretty face turned red at a speed visible to the naked eye. She glared at Kainai unhappily and said coquettishly, "You are too bad. How can you be like this? Then what do you think is worse than what I did? Or what those 4 old guys did?" Kainai's big hand touched Zahihang's buttocks very dishonestly. "They are not good things." Zahihang pushed Kainai's salty pig hand away in shame and anger. At this moment, Hinata slowly woke up. "Teacher Hong, Hinata, are you awake?" Hearing this, Yuhi Hong seemed to be afraid that Kainai would get close to Hinata. She took a step ahead of him, sat on Hinata's bed, and slowly helped her up. "Yeah." Hinata nodded, looked at Kainai on the bed next to her, and then looked at Yuhi Hang. She suppressed her shyness and bowed to Yuhi Hang on the bed. Teacher Hang, Big Brother is not a bad person. Please don't report his presence here to the Hokage. Looking at Hinata kneeling on the bed, as an experienced person, Yuhi Hang could not guess what this girl was thinking, and instantly didn't know whether to laugh or cry. At the same time, she looked at Kainai again, with a hint of resentment. Don't worry, this guy's my disciple, and I know very well what kind of person he is. Yuhi Kurenoi helped Hinata up and said seriously, however, Hinata, I'm sure you also know Kainai's current identity. I hope that none of us can pretend that what happened to this guy tonight never happened. Hearing this, Hinata breathed a sigh of relief, and said timidly to Kainai, I'm fine big brother. Yes, it's all thanks to you. Otherwise Teacher Han would not let me go so easily. Kainai showed a gentle smile on his face, and subconsciously wanted to go up and touch Hinata's cute little head, but was glared back by Yuhi Kurenoi. She was worried that Kainai was not only disrespecting his ancestors, but also wanted to eat the master disciple rice bowl, so she immediately ordered him to leave. Okay, Hinata's injury has recovered. You should go back to where you came from. There are often nurses checking in the hospital. Be careful not to be caught by the Anbu. Then Hinata, I will come to see you next time, and Teacher Hong, we will see each other in the future. Kainai bit the word in the future very hard, leaving behind this sentence, and disappeared from the Konoha hospital in the eyes of Yuhi Hong's shame and Hinata's reluctance. There was no conversation that night. The next morning, just after dawn, Kainai started morning exercises with Yikang. At the same time, Jiraiya found Naruto. After some sweet talk, Jiraiya took Naruto out of Konoha village on the pretext of guiding Naruto's training, and officially embarked on the journey to find Tsunade. 3 days later, in a huge building on a high ground in Konoha village, Kabuto found Orochimaru. Lord Orochimaru, I just got some very interesting information. This was the first sentence Kabuto said after seeing Orochimaru. Why? Did Sasuke do something that surprised you again? Orochimaru asked curiously. No, it's not Uchiha Sasuke. Because of the influence of your curse seal, he was just discharged from the hospital early this morning. Now Kakashi has taken him to a hill outside the village. I guess he is taking him for special training. What I want to talk about is something else. Kabuto Yakashi adjusted his glasses lightly. 3 days ago, Jiraiya, who was one of the 3 ninjas like you, left Konoha and took Uzumaki Naruto with him. Now he is looking for another 3 ninjas at Tsunade all over the world. PS. Second update. Please recommend and vote for me. Chapter 154. Orochimaru wants to give Sarutobi Hiruzen a decent face. It seems that the old man was frightened by Kainai-kun some time ago. He wants Jiraiya to go out and find help, but if he thinks that he can stop me in this way, then he is too naive. A disdainful smile appeared on Orochimaru's gloomy face. Lord Orochimaru, I'm afraid things are not as simple as you think. Yakashi Kabuto shook his head and chuckled. As far as I know, this may be related to Lord Kainai. Kainai? Orochimaru was stunned, and he was obviously interested, with a strange light flashing in his eyes. This is interesting. Kainai-kun is a person who never plays by the rules. Tell me, what interesting things has he done again? Speaking of Kainai, Yakashi Kabuto's eyes couldn't help but flash with admiration, because Kainai did things that he had not even dared to think about for many years. He replied, the night before Jiraiya left the village, the 3rd Hokage summoned 2 advisors, Utane Koharu and Mito Kadoen. Even the root leader Dunzo, who had been under house arrest for many years, was summoned to the Hokage building. It seemed that it was because Fujiwara Chiya spread the scandal of Konoha's senior officials. But what's strange is that not long after Danzo entered the Hokage building, an Anbu ninja went to inform Jiraiya and the patriarchs of Konoha's major families to gather in the Hokage building without receiving orders from the 3rd Hokage. What's even more incredible is that after these patriarchs arrived at the door of the Hokage's office, they waited for nearly half an hour and did not dare to knock on the door until Jiraiya arrived. Guess what they saw? Orochimaru frowned. Those 4 old guys were killed? No, if that's the case, then this matter would definitely not be concealed. It would have caused a sensation throughout Konoha and even the entire ninja world. The smile on Kabuto Yakashi's face grew wider and crazier, and finally he couldn't help but burst into laughter. Ha 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 ha. Lord Orochimaru, you may not believe this, but driven by curiosity, I secretly kidnapped the head of a small family and used drugs to force him to tell me everything that happened that night. Haha, those 4 old guys were actually drugged, and they were having a party in the Hokage's office, and were caught by Jiraiya and the heads of the major families of Konoha. Especially Danzo, the first generation cells and Sharingan that you transferred to his right arm were also revealed to everyone. Now, those for Konoha high-ranking officials may lose their integrity and never face people again. Hearing this, even with the calmness of Orochimaru, his mouth twitched. Such a thing can only be done by that guy Kanai. It seems that this time, my teacher Sarutobi really doesn't have the face to be the Hokage anymore. I plan to let Tsunade take over as the 5th Hokage. Yes, there are rumors circulating in Konoha that the 3rd Hokage is about to step down. So what are you going to do? Are we going to stop Jiraiya from looking for Tsunade? Kabuto Yakashi stopped laughing and asked. There is no need to go far and ask Konoha to start the official competition in advance as the Kazekage. Orochimaru showed a mysterious smile on his face. In advance? Kabuto Yakashi was stunned and said hesitantly, but Lord Orochimaru, if that happens, we won't have time to make arrangements. Orochimaru shook his head. It doesn't matter. Anyway, I don't expect to completely destroy Konoha. My real goal is to kill the old man of the 3rd Hokage. Moreover, the few powerful Jonin in Konoha have been severely injured by Chiya-kun. Under the mutual weakening, it will not have much impact on our plan. Kabuto Yakashi continued, but, this seems too suspicious. Will Konoha agree? And there is no guarantee that the Sand Village will not doubt your identity. Konoha will agree, at least the old man will agree. A confident smile appeared on Orochimaru's face. In fact, Orochimaru's real purpose was just to give his teacher a decent face. After Kanai's incident, Sarutobi Hiruzen's reputation was ruined. At the same time, Danzo's transplantation of the 1st generation cells in the Sharingan was exposed to the public. This has touched the bottom line of the major families in Konoha. At this moment, even a fool can guess that the extermination of the Uchiha clan is related to the Konoha high level. If things continue to ferment, once Tsunade is in power, I'm afraid that Sarutobi Hiruzen will fight a life and death battle with Orochimaru again, and die in Orochimaru's hands to protect Konoha, and no one will regard him as a hero anymore. Not to mention leaving a good name before and after death like the previous Hokage. On this point, Orochimaru believes that Sarutobi Hiruzen knows better than anyone. Therefore, Sarutobi Hiruzen will definitely agree. As long as he is still in this position of Hokage. As long as he dies as a Hokage to protect Konoha. As long as he dies sooner. Then, in the hearts of the people of Konoha, his death will be more valuable. By then, all the darkness that Sarutobi Hiruzen carried would be buried deep underground with his death. No one would care about the gains and losses of a dead person. I know. Lord Orochimaru. Kabuto took a deep breath. He didn't know what Orochimaru was thinking, but he subconsciously thought that Orochimaru was afraid that the other 2 Sannin would join forces, so he asked, then in your opinion, when should it be advanced? The Konoha collapse plan would be meaningless if Jiraiya and Tsunade were missing. Send someone to keep an eye on Jiraiya's movements. Once he finds Tsunade, send someone to notify me, and then we will start the Konoha collapse plan. Orochimaru thought for a moment and gave an answer that Kabuto and himself could trust. Just as Kanai said, Orochimaru did not completely give up his feelings for Konoha. His real purpose was not to destroy the windmill of Konoha, but to make the windmill of Konoha, which had stopped because of Sarutobi Hiruzen, start turning again. Konoha Hokage building. At this time, 3 days had passed since the F4 carnival in Konoha. Since the matter of transplanting the 1st generation cells in the Sharingan was exposed, Shimura Danzo has been hiding and never dared to show up again. After experiencing the carnival incident, Koharu Utatane and Mitokado returned to their old nests and huddled down, turning a deaf ear to what was happening outside. In the end, Sarutobi Hiruzen took on everything alone. There was no other way. The carnival incident was really too big. It had reached the point where even he, the most powerful infighting politician in Konoha, could not stabilize the situation. It was not until Orochimaru, as the Kazakage, sent Tsunagakure to deliver a handwritten letter to start the official Chunin exam in advance, that Sarutobi Hiruzen smiled with relief. For the first time, Sarutobi Hiruzen made a decision that could put Konoha in an irreparable situation without any hesitation or discussion with the two Hokage advisors, Koharu Utatane and Mito Kadoen. He agreed to Tsunagakure's request to advance the date of the official Chunin exam. PS. The third update. Please recommend and monthly votes. Chapter 155. Jiraiya finally meets Tsunade. Outside the Konoha village, there is a steep mountain with few people. This is the training place agreed by Kakashi and Sasuke, and it is also the place where Kakashi once taught Chiya Chidori and dog-headed version of Earth Flow Wall. Kakashi put his left hand behind his back, his legs hanging in the air, and was crawling up with one hand. The weight of his body and the pressure of the intimate paradise made him faint several times. His body cramped violently and sweated profusely. I didn't expect that rock climbing training would be so difficult. My body has become dull. Just when Kakashi's body was about to give up and his fingers were about to fall off the rock, he closed his eyes and the image of the human body's chakra veins appeared in his mind and his brain beat violently like a heart. The first gate of the 8 gates of ninjutsu was opened and the whole person's chakra and strength suddenly soared a level. He jumped up and clamped a rock at the edge of the cliff. The second pillar, who couldn't wait to become stronger, had already arrived. He looked down at Kakashi with his back to the sun and greeted him. Yo, it seems you are finally here. Kakashi looked at Sasuke, and because the sun was too dazzling, he couldn't help but narrow his eyes slightly. I should be the one saying this. Kakashi, you are late again. The second pillar said coldly. You are really not cute. Kakashi curled his lips, exerted a little force with his right hand, and easily jumped to the top of the cliff. The next moment, he was stunned. What is this? The cliff top, which was originally covered with rocks, was full of potholes. In the huge potholes, there were rocks that were cut in half and rubble produced by the explosion everywhere. Some stones had many small holes as thick as thumbs, which were covered with moss, which was very different from the cliff top he remembered. This is not enough to describe it as a mess. It is not an exaggeration to say that the huge cliff top was cut off in half. More importantly, he could confirm that no one had come here since he called Kainai from here to the Hokage building. In other words, Kainai had been hiding himself since then. What are you surprised about? Isn't this the place where you once taught Fujiwara Chiya to practice? Sasuke walked to Kakashi's side, his eyes full of confidence. He firmly believed that, as long as he learned Chidori from Kakashi during this period, he would be able to achieve this level in the near future. No, nothing. Let's start now. Kakashi knew how strong Sasuke's competitive mentality was. In order not to hit the second pillar, he finally did not tell the truth. He tilted his head to look in the direction outside Konoha and murmured in his heart, Kainai, how strong are you? The breeze blew the trees on both sides of the road. The street was silent and spotless under the afternoon sky. Everything was so clean, tidy, and well organized. Even the trash cans on the side of the road looked very clean. It was noon, the sun was blazing, and Tansho Street, a town that was considered a famous historical site in the Naruto world, was deserted. The only people moving on the street were a middle-aged uncle and a teenager. The middle-aged man was tall and wore a forehead protector with the word oil written on it. His long white hair fell to his waist. There was a red mark under his eyes, extending to his chin. He was wearing a red coat, a brown dress underneath, wooden clogs, and armor on his hands. The boy had short blonde hair, blue eyes, and 6 whisker-like patterns on his cheeks. He was wearing an orange jacket with blue shoulder pads and a white collar. The back of his clothes and the left arm were sewn with the mark of the Uzumaki clan. A kunai bag was tied to his right leg. He wore blue ninja shoes, and a Konoha ninja forehead protector was tied on his head. It was after half a month of searching along the way that Jiraiya and Naruto finally found this place. Because Tsunade settled down in Tansho Street, they did not continue to wander around, so they arrived here earlier than the original book. At this time, Jiraiya was holding Tsunade's photo, walking and stopping along the way, looking around, and Naruto followed behind him, holding the ball in his hand and squeezing it with chakra as he walked. Suddenly, Jiraiya stopped in front of a luxurious villa in Tansho Street. Because Naruto was too focused on the ball, he accidentally bumped into Jiraiya, causing him to sit on the ground with his buttocks, and the ball also exploded. "What are you doing, lecherous sage?" Naruto rubbed his buttocks in pain, looked around, and when he found the ball, he found that it had broken. He couldn't help but jump up happily. Haha. Lecherous sage, I succeeded. But Jiraiya didn't mean to pay attention to Naruto because his eyes were attracted to the gate of the villa in front. A girl with thick black short hair and a pure look came out holding a pet pig. Behind her, there was a pretty girl with golden twin ponytails, bright brown pupils, and a look very similar to Tsunade. Seeing the two, Jiraiya immediately showed a sly smile on his face and stepped forward to greet. "Hey, Shizune." Shizune looked in the direction of the voice, and when she saw who it was, she couldn't help but be stunned. "Are you Jiraiya, sir? It's been many years since I last saw you. You're getting more and more beautiful. And Tsunade too, likes to act young as always. She even tied up cute twin ponytails that only girls have. Is it because she owes gambling debts again?" Jiraiya walked up to the two girls and half squatted down. Just as Jiraiya was about to touch Chinatsu's cute little head, Shizune's voice rang in his ear. "Jiraiya, sir, please stop. Mom, come and save me. There are bad guys here." However, it was too late because Chinatsu had already started crying. "What's wrong? Isn't she Tsunade?" Hearing the girl's cry, Jiraiya realized that he had made a mistake and turned his head to look at Shizune. "Jiraiya-sama, you're on your own." Leaving these words, Shizune picked up Chinatsu, returned to the courtyard in a flash, and closed the courtyard door. The next moment, a black shadow suddenly rushed into the sky from the other courtyard, turned into a black dot, and fell straight down. The ground on the street collapsed instantly, and the surrounding houses collapsed, burying Naruto and Jiraiya in the ruins. Hey, Tsunade, stop it, it's me." Jiraiya crawled out of the ruins in a rather embarrassed manner. "Jiraiya?" Tsunade's eyes flashed with surprise. Why did he suddenly come here? Is it really like Kanai said, that he came to find his own Hokage? I said, "Old friends, we haven't seen each other for a long time. You don't have to treat me like this." Jiraiya smiled bitterly. "Who told you to bully my daughter?" Tsunade crossed her arms and held them under her chest. "Daughter?" Jiraiya was stunned, and then he noticed the pure gold ring on Tsunade's left ring finger. He couldn't help but widen his eyes. "Hey, are you married? PS. First update, asking for recommendation votes and monthly votes. Thanks to bookfriend *** 0247 for the reward of 1500 starting coins. Thanks to Kyan Feng Yu, bookfriend ** 1920. Killing one is a sin. I drink 7 treasures porridge. Bao Yang Sheogang. Bookfriend ** 0908. Bookfriend ** 0309. Yan Yu Heo for the reward of 500 starting coins. Thanks to Nanjianwei, Kyan Cheng Seeking for the reward of 200 starting coins. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 156 Chinatsu, this is your Uncle Jiraiya. Of course, my daughter is already 4 years old. Tsunade raised the pure gold ring in her hand and did not deny it. Crack. Suddenly, a heartbreaking sound rang out in the air. Jiraiya's eyes were bloodshot, and he asked Tsunade frantically, "Who is it? Which bastard?" Tsunade cast a dangerous look. "Huh? What did you say?" Facing Tsunade's gaze, Jiraiya immediately changed his face and laughed dryly. "I want to know who has the honor to marry you, the most beautiful woman in the ninja world." "I thought you wanted to say which bastard married me." Tsunade sighed lightly and said, "But you don't need to know the identity of my husband. He is just an ordinary businessman who has been doing business outside all year round. I don't want him to be involved in the right and wrong of the ninja world." You came all the way to see me, not just to reminisce about the past. Come in with me. As she spoke, Tsunade walked into the villa. Rich businessman. I never thought I would lose to an ordinary person. Hearing Tsunade's words, Jiraiya smiled self-deprecatingly, sighed helplessly, and completely forgot about Naruto, who came with him and followed him in. Not long after they went in, Naruto just dug through the ruins in a daze, with a question mark on his face. From beginning to end, he didn't know what happened. A moment later, Jiraiya followed Tsunade to the courtyard. At this time, under Shizune's instructions, Karin's mother had prepared tea, and the two sat down in the pavilion. As for Shizune herself, she went out to find someone to take care of the damaged streets as usual. Red hair, is this a member of the Uzumaki clan? Jiraiya looked at Karin's mother in surprise. Apart from the hair color and face, her figure was not much worse than Tsunade's. Yes, Jiraiya-sama. Karin's mother responded respectfully, holding the tea tray and returning to the house. Tsunade held her daughter in her arms and introduced her. Her name is Kazuki. She and her daughter Karin are from the Uzumaki tribe who drifted to the land of grass. They were treated as human blood bags by those bastards in Kyuubi. They recovered from their injuries by gnawing on their flesh and absorbing their chakra. Not long ago, my husband felt sorry for them, and they were my distant relatives, so he used his connections to rescue them. Now her daughter Karin is my disciple. Maybe this is the cruelty of the ninja world. Once you lose your home and your shelter, you will inevitably suffer this kind of ending. Jiraiya was filled with emotion. Looking at Tsunade sitting opposite him, and the cute and lovely Chinatsu in Tsunade's arms, he felt sour in his heart, and couldn't be happy at all. He smiled bitterly and asked, but your daughter really looks like you. She is as cute as you were when you were a child. What's her name? Of course. Tsunade stroked Chinatsu's head gently, with a happy smile on her face, and introduced. Her name is Chinatsu, Sen for Senju, Zaya for Zaya. Chinatsu, this is the Jiraiya I always told you about. Come and call Jiraiya uncle. Hello, Uncle Jiraiya. In front of outsiders, Chinatsu was still very obedient. Seeing that he was indeed an acquaintance of her mother, she greeted Jiraiya very politely. The ethereal voice was very beautiful, making people feel that their souls were cleansed. However, to Jiraiya's ears, it was like a steel needle piercing his heart. The taste was so sour and refreshing. Hello, little girl. Jiraiya forced a smile and spoke with difficulty. Chinatsu, go back to the house first. I have something to say to your uncle Jiraiya. Tsunade sent her daughter away, took a sip from the teacup, and asked directly, okay, tell me, what is the matter that has taken you so much trouble to find me? It's impossible that you are here to reminisce about the past. I'll be frank, Tsunade, the village wants you to go back and inherit the 5th generation Hokage. Jiraiya tightened his grip on the teacup. Why, is the old man dead? Tsunade's expression was a little complicated. After all, he was her teacher. Although she knew that Sarutobi Hiruzen had done a lot of stupid things, if she really heard the news of his death, it would still be a little complicated. No, that's not the case, but things are more serious than this. Jiraiya's face sank. Orochimaru has returned to the village. He seems to be planning something. That's it? Tsunade looked unconvinced. With your strength, it should not be difficult to stop him. Besides, although the old man is old, he won't be scared to abdicate just because of Orochimaru. Of course. It's not just that. Jiraiya said solemnly, I guess you should have heard of Fujiwara Chiya. Is he the young man who wiped out the old man and the family of that old guy Danzo? Tsunade was stunned, avoiding Jiraiya's gaze, and asked knowingly. Jiraiya said seriously, it's him. He's back too, and joined a mysterious organization composed of all S-class rebel ninjas. Orochimaru was once a member of this organization. Although we don't know what the purpose of that organization is yet, Fujiwara Chiya himself hates the old man for some reason. Some time ago, Konoha and Sand Ninja held a joint Chunin exam. He disguised himself as a candidate and sneaked into Konoha, which made the village a mess. Not only did he severely injure Kakashi, my guy, Asuma and other jonin, but also, at this point, Jiraiya recalled the eye-catching scene of that day, and his old face couldn't help but blush. What else? Tsunade's eyes flashed with curiosity. Although Chiya promised not to do anything that would harm Konoha, but she wanted to know what the guy had done. He was able to force the old man of the third generation to abdicate. This, I guess it's a bit inconvenient. Jiraiya fiddled with his index finger like a shy little girl, and he was rarely shy. You decide whether to tell me or not. If you don't want to, please go back. Don't mention the fifth Hokage to me again. Tsunade said impatiently. This is really inconvenient. Jiraiya blushed. Tsunade ignored Jiraiya and stood up and walked out of the pavilion. Kazuki, show the guest out. Wait, let me tell you. Seeing this, Jiraiya hurriedly stopped him. It should have been done earlier. Tsunade sat back in her original position with a wicked smile on her face. Jiraiya took a deep breath. This is what happened. As he spoke, Jiraiya told the story of the revelry of Sarutobi Hiruzen, Utatane Koharu, Mitokado En, and Shimura Danzo. Her shoulders trembled slightly, and with a puff, she couldn't help but lie on the stone table, slammed the table, and laughed. Haha, those four old guys, and that Danzo who is known for his insidiousness, actually laughed. Are they idiots? PS. Second update. Please recommend on monthly votes. Chapter 157 The Forgotten Naruto. Finally, Tsunade laughed so hard that tears came out. At the same time, she finally understood why Jiraiya came to invite her to be the Hokage much earlier than she had expected. It seemed that the four old guys in Konoha had been played by their young man. So what's your answer, Tsunade? Jiraiya's mouth twitched fiercely, and he asked the question he cared about most. Interesting. Yeah. Quite interesting. I can't wait to go back to the village to see the jokes of those four old guys. Okay, I'll be the Hokage. Tsunade wiped her tears, crossed her arms, and said the answer she had prepared long ago. Tsunade, don't be so anxious to refuse. This time I brought a very interesting guy with me. I believe you will definitely. Wait, what did you just say? Tsunade's answer was obviously beyond Jiraiya's expectations. He originally thought that, after experiencing the incident with Rope Tree and Katodan, Tsunade would refuse. I said. I agreed. Tsunade showed a confident smile on her face. Her red lips slightly opened, and she spoke word by word. Why did you agree so readily? Also, don't you need to discuss this with your husband? Jiraiya felt a strong sense of unreality, and couldn't help asking. What's so strange about this? Konoha is the village founded by my grandfather. Now it's messed up by those old guys. As a granddaughter, is it okay for me to go back and clean up the mess? As for my little man, he can't wait to be happy to have me, the future 5th Hokage, as his wife. Tsunade spread her hands. She wouldn't say that she changed her mind because of her little man. Little man. Jiraiya smiled bitterly and thought to himself, it seems that Tsunade is an old cow eating young grass, but I don't know which one will get the advantage. Well, let's not delay any longer. When do you plan to leave? Konoha is at its weakest right now, and we must return as soon as possible. I can be there anytime. Just leave a letter for my little man. But by the way, you just said you brought an interesting guy with you? Where is he? Tsunade looked at Jiraiya with interest. After hearing this, Jiraiya just reacted, widened his eyes, and looked around. At this moment, there was no trace of Naruto. It seemed that the two of them were buried together under the ruins before. He had completely forgotten about Naruto after learning that Tsunade was married. Konoha village. At this time, the sun was setting, but the whole Konoha village exuded a strange atmosphere. With the appearance of Chiya and Orochimaru more than half a month ago, Konoha F4 was calculated by others, and they were reveling in the Hokage's office in full view of the public, and Danzo's right arm transplanted Sharingan and the exposure of the first generation of cells. Konoha began to fall into an unprecedented period of turmoil. A crisis is inevitable. At this moment, on the dome of a huge building somewhere, Orochimaru folded his arms and leaned on a stone pillar. Next to him was Kabuto Yakushi, who was kneeling on one knee, wearing a Konoha forehead protector. Kabuto had a dangerous smile on his face, pushed up his reflective glasses, and said with a smile, Lord Orochimaru, Lord Jiraiya has found Lady Tsunade in Tansho Street. They set out 4 days ago, and are now on their way to Konoha. If nothing goes wrong, they will arrive soon at their current speed. By then, your plan to collapse Konoha will almost be over. It's really unexpected. After what happened, Tsunade actually agreed to come back and take over this mess. Orochimaru said lightly with his golden eyes flashing. Kabuto continued, there is another piece of information that may be of interest to you. Lady Tsunade seems to have married and has a daughter. Oh. A hint of surprise flashed across Orochimaru's eyes, and he gloated, that's interesting. Someone was able to subdue that woman, and Jiraiya. That idiot must be heartbroken now. Forget it, these are no longer important. In the end, it was only a week earlier than originally planned. It's really boring. After saying that, Orochimaru looked at the roof opposite. There was a long pole standing there. A huge windmill was mounted on the pole. A breeze blew, and the windmill slowly began to turn. Orochimaru smiled sinisterly in his heart. Konoha's windmill is finally going to start turning. Konoha Hospital. The doctor is checking the physical condition of my guy, Marino Ibiki, and Gekko Hayate. Among the 5 people who fought against Chiya, Kakashi was the least injured, and Asuma Sarutobi, who was tortured in the torture room, was the most seriously injured. Although Ibiki Marino suffered the same pain as Asuma, because the torture room assimilated the damage in the form of spirit, everything was normal in the body, so the damage to Ibiki Marino was not as great as imagined. He was only in a coma for more than half a month before he woke up. Asuma Sarutobi is still lying in bed, unconscious, and has not recovered. Your injuries have recovered very well, and you didn't suffer fatal injuries. It's a blessing in disguise. I will arrange for someone to come and remove the stitches later. You can be discharged tomorrow morning, but be careful not to touch the wound. Otherwise the wound that has been healed with great difficulty will split. The doctor warned the 3 people and turned to walk out of the ward. It seems that we finally caught up. Ibiki, Hayate. Might Guy said. Ahem. Gekko Hayate coughed lightly and replied, yes, tomorrow is the official Chunin exam. I never thought that the Hokage would agree to the Sand Ninja's request to start the exam early. Marino Ibiki nodded in agreement and sighed. I always feel that this Chunin exam is not that simple. First it was Orochimaru, then Fujiwara Chiya, and then Sand Ninja. It seems that there is a conspiracy from beginning to end. Well, I think it may be related to the death of Sandow Special Jonin who replaced Hayate to track down the Sand Ninja spy some time ago. Kakashi's voice suddenly sounded outside the ward, and then the door of the room was pushed open, and Kakashi, wearing a Konoha Jonin green vest, walked in. Kakashi, my guy, Marino Ibiki, and Gekko Hayate looked at Kakashi at the same time. Hey, you all recovered very well. Kakashi raised his hand and greeted everyone. Aren't you teaching the boy from the Uchiha family? Might Guy asked with some confusion. I left a shadow clone watching over there. My arm has just recovered, so I came to see you guys. I also wanted to see how you are doing. Kakashi raised his right hand, which had fully recovered, and looked around. He found that Asuma was nowhere to be seen, so he asked, why, Asuma hasn't recovered yet. P.S. This is the 3rd update. Some people may find these chapters boring, and this chapter is still a break. But this is just a transition. Please look forward to the next one. Chapter 158, the beginning of Sarutobi Hiruzen's transformation from a hero to a clown. Ibiki Marino shook his head, a trace of deep self-blame flashed across his eyes. At that time, I was caught in Fujiwara Chiya's illusion and mistakenly pulled Asuma into the torture room. Various tortures were inflicted on Asuma. Although both sides felt the same pain, mine was only mental. He suffered both mental and physical torture. Now the situation is still not optimistic. Kakashi sighed lightly and comforted him. You don't need to blame yourself. After all, no one expected that Fujiwara Chiya's illusion would reach a level that even physical pain could not break. There was a brief silence in the field. After a while, Moonlight Gale spoke first, breaking the silent atmosphere in the field. Kakashi, did you say that Sandow was dead just now? He was startled and recalled Chiya's words before he fell into a coma. It seems you heard it too. Kakashi nodded heavily. When Chiya said that he saved you by cutting you with his sword, it seems that he was not lying. If you had not been injured, you might have died. I think he had expected this to happen, or he might have reached some kind of consensus with Orochimaru. I think the reason why Hokage agreed to let Tsunagakure start the Chunin exam in advance should be related to Fujiwara Chiya or Orochimaru. As soon as Kakashi finished speaking, a breeze blew in from the window. Along with it, there was a leisurely and pleasant voice. You are worthy of being the copy ninja Kakashi. You can actually guess everything, based on the details. Hearing this voice, Kakashi, my guy, Marino Ibiki, and Gekao Hayate were suddenly startled. Their faces suddenly became solemn, and they took their positions, and stared at the windowsill. Kainai, dressed in a red cloud and black robe, appeared silently in front of the window, and just sat on the window with his legs on the table. Fujiwara Chiya. Marino Ibiki shouted, staring at Kainai sitting on the window with resentment in his eyes, almost spitting fire. Kainai faced it calmly, without any fear, and chuckled. It seems that you seem to hate me very much. Is it because of Sarutobi Asuma? But it's better not to shout. It will only make you look weak. Asshole. Marino Ibiki was furious, and was about to rush towards Kainai. Might Guy had learned his lesson from last time, and knew that he had no chance of winning without activating the 8 gates. He clenched his fists and crossed them, striking a Super Saiyan explosion posture, and shouted, in that case, I will use the 8 gates. Don't act rashly, Ibiki and Guy. You've just recovered from a serious injury. If you rashly activate the 8 gates, your body won't be able to withstand it. However, before the two of them could make a move, Kakashi immediately used his instant body, extending his arms to both sides, blocking them and staring at Kainai. Fujiwara Chiya, you really haven't left Konoha. You didn't come here to fight this time, right? Tell me, what is your purpose? Chiya pursed her lips and a faint smile appeared on her face. I just like talking to smart people. Don't worry. If I wanted to kill you, I would have killed you last time. This time, not only will I not kill you, but I will come to help you. Help us? This doesn't sound like something an S-class rebel ninja from Konoha would say. Kakashi's eyes showed suspicion. He didn't believe that the other party was so kind. What's so strange about this? I have no grudges against you. What I really hate are just the Konoha high-level officials. If it weren't for those two old guys, Sarutobi Hiruzen and Anzo, maybe we would still be companions now. Kainai smiled faintly. Aren't you very curious that Sarutobi Hiruzen suddenly agreed to Tsunagakure's request and started the official Chunin exam ahead of schedule? Let me tell you. Kakashi guessed right just now. This matter is indeed related to me and Orochimaru. Kakashi frowned. Then can I understand that you and Orochimaru have joined forces? Or are you his subordinate? Kainai rolled his eyes at Kakashi unhappily. Even the second pillar who is practicing Chidori on the top of the cliff can see that I'm stronger than Orochimaru. He wants to get powerful strength from me to defeat his brother who killed his father and mother. I didn't expect you to think of using such a clumsy provocation to obtain information from me. What a bad taste. Then I'll tell you. Orochimaru asked me not to interfere with his actions this time on the condition of a certain forbidden technique of Konoha. For the sake of forbidden techniques, I agreed to him. But this is just a digression, not what I want to say. Well, let me think about where to start. At this point, a hint of amusement flashed in Kainai's eyes, and he said in a deep voice, let's start from the day more than 20 days ago, when I beat you, and put you in the hospital. I'm sure you should have heard about it. In the evening of that day, the heads of the major families in Konoha, including Jiraiya, were invited by the Hokage to gather at the Hokage building. Then not long after, rumors spread in the village that the third Hokage was about to step down, and the next fifth Hokage would be inherited by Tsunade, one of the 3 ninjas. What? Could it be that the resignation of Hokage has something to do with you? Marino Ibiki stared at Kainai. Kainai smiled. Of course. After all, the old guy Sarutobi Hiruzen's original plan was to be the Hokage until his death. How could a guy who values power so much be willing to give up the position of Hokage that he had finally secured with the sacrifice of countless ninjas before he died? In fact, it's not that Sarutobi Hiruzen wants to resign, but he has reached the point where he has to resign. Because of something that happened in the evening of that day, Kakashi was stunned. One thing. Yes, one thing. Kainai had a malicious smile on his face. What Sarutobi Hiruzen cares about most is his reputation. To some extent, he even values his reputation more than his own life. Because of what happened in the Forest of Death during the day, I exposed many scandals of Sarutobi Hiruzen. So he was uneasy about me. After doing all the follow-up work that day, he couldn't wait to summon two consultants, Utane Koharu and Mitokado En, as well as the leader of the root organization, Danzo, to think about how to deal with me. I've also been thinking about how to deal with them. Killing them would certainly relieve my hatred for a while, but it would be too easy for these 4 old guys. Why not? I'll just go all out and use some gadgets on them. Then I'll disguise myself as an Anbu and invite the heads of the major families in Konoha to watch the show in the name of Hokage. Might Guy swallowed and couldn't help asking, what gadgets? He vaguely felt that it was something amazing. Because his acorn had begun to react unconsciously. PS. First update. Please recommend and vote for me. Chapter 159. The morbid master-disciple relationship in the Naruto world. Aphrodisiac. Kayanai uttered 2 words lightly. As soon as the words fell, Kakashi and the other three's hair instantly stood up and shuddered suddenly. In their minds, there appeared the scene of Sarutobi Hiruzen, Mitokado En, Shimura Danzo, and Utatane Koharu, 4 old guys in their 60s and 70s reveling. With a bang, it was as if several volcanoes erupted at the same time in their minds, and their brains were instantly blank. Then Kakashi, Might Guy, and Gekao Height quickly leaned over to the corner and vomited on the spot. As the captain of the Konoha Interrogation Corps, Marino Ibiki had a slightly stronger tolerance, but also felt his scalp tingling. He looked at Kayanai again, as if he was looking at a devil, and trembled. Fujiwara Chiya, you have such a vicious heart, are you? I'm honored to be recognized by you, the captain of the Konoha Interrogation Corps. Kayanai smiled, not ashamed, but proud of it. After a while, Kakashi almost vomited, put on the mask again, and asked the doubts in his heart. After all, he was framed. This alone will at most embarrass Lord Hokage, but it should not be enough to force him to step down from the position of Hokage. Of course, because many patriarchs of Konoha families saw something that shocked them, and was horrifying, when they thought about it carefully. Kayanai's smile faded, and he didn't keep it a secret anymore. He casually took out a very eye-catching photo, and threw it to Kakashi in the form of a flying card. Kakashi took it, and looked at it, and instantly broke out in a cold sweat. What is this? How do you feel? Do you feel creepy and horrible when you think about it carefully? What do you think will happen if the second pillar sees this? Kayanai said with a smile. Kakashi, what did he show you? Might Guy walked to Kakashi's side, and Gekko Gale and Marino Ibiki also came over curiously. But Kakashi put away the photo in advance before they looked at him. Kayanai said in a deep voice, there is no need to hide it, and it is impossible to hide it. Anyway, all the patriarchs of Konoha have seen it, and some of them have even leaked the information. This matter cannot be concealed. Hearing this, Kakashi hesitated for a moment, and handed over the photo. The result was the same as Kakashi before. Might Guy, Gekko Height, and Marino Ibiki all turned pale, and broke out in cold sweats. Kayanai, what is your purpose in telling us this? Kakashi took a deep breath, and stared at Kayanai. Don't be impatient. You can't become fat in one breath. Please listen to me slowly. Kayanai continued, I believe that these have been exposed in public, and you should know what this means. And these are the results of Sarutobi Hiruzen's tacit approval and connivance. Although Danzo is very selfish, and is indeed a piece of shit, he is at best just a scapegoat prepared by Sarutobi Hiruzen for himself. This is why Sarutobi Hiruzen had to take the initiative to resign. After all, he, the Hokage, cannot escape the blame for what happened, and to some extent he is the culprit. Uchiha is just an illusion. The real purpose is to strengthen the Sarutobi clan, and consolidate his regime as the strongest Hokage of all generations. It's just that he didn't expect that my accident would happen. Overnight, his decades of hard work would be burned to ashes. Might Guy asked hesitantly, then why did Lord Hokage agree to the Sand Ninja's request to start the official Chunin exam early? Kayanai smiled faintly and uttered 2 words, please die. Seeking death. Kakashi, Might Guy, Gekko Height, and Marino Ibiki were puzzled. Chiya nodded. I should have said that Sarutobi Hiruzen is a person who values his reputation more than his own life. He is old now, and he doesn't have many years left to live. He has done too many stupid things in his life. In the few remaining years, life is no longer as important to him as it was in the early years. Compared to these, he values his reputation before and after death more. Originally, he planned to have a life and death battle between master and apprentice with his beloved apprentice Orochimaru in the Chunin exam, and then die as a hero to protect Konoha like the previous Hokage. Take away all the darkness in his life. This is also the reason why he still did not stop the Chunin exam, even though he knew Orochimaru had a conspiracy. It's ironic, isn't it? Your third Hokage, who is known as the strongest Hokage of all time, dragged the entire Konoha into the flames of war in order to leave a good reputation for himself. He never took any effective measures. When you raised objections, he probably just said I believe you and left Orochimaru alone. At this point, including Kakashi, the four of them began to doubt their beliefs. They looked at each other, their eyes uncertain. It was obvious that they had begun to believe what Kainai said. Although they didn't want to admit it in their hearts, they didn't want to admit it. Kainai continued, it's a pity that his scandal has been exposed by me, especially after the carnival world, which forced him to resign from the position of Hokage ahead of schedule. He was anxious. Once Tsunade, one of the three ninjas, comes back to inherit the fifth Hokage, then even if he dies as originally planned, he will no longer be a Hokage. His death will no longer be so valuable. And the new fifth Hokage Tsunade will never watch the third Hokage plunge Konoha into war for his own reputation, or even forcibly terminate the Chunin exam and enter a wartime state. That's why he couldn't wait to agree to the Sand Ninja's request to start the Chunin exam official competition ahead of schedule. Kakashi couldn't help asking, then what does all this have to do with Orochimaru? Because Orochimaru wants to give his teacher a decent face. Kainai said with a smile. Dignified? Kakashi and the other four were stunned at the same time. Kainai sighed lightly and talked nonsense in a serious tone. The most complicated thing in this world is not the relationship between parents and children, nor the relationship between brothers and sisters, nor love, but the relationship between master and apprentice. Even if it is because of different standpoints, or pure psychological abnormality, or even to the extent of bullying the teacher and destroying ancestors. After killing the teacher, there will be more or less a trace of pity in the heart. The master and apprentice pair of Orochimaru and Sarutobi Hiruzen are the most typical example. Although both of them are not good people, they even reach the point of fighting for their lives when they meet. But the friendship between master and apprentice is real. Most of you think that the purpose of Orochimaru's return this time is for Sasuke, the second pillar. In fact, this is only one of his purposes. The other purpose is to give Sarutobi Hiruzen a decent death. The master and apprentice hit it off. That's why there was this torturous Chunin exam. PS. Second update. Please recommend. Please vote for the third update of the monthly ticket. I'm not satisfied with what I wrote, and I'm revising it. Wait a minute. Chapter 160 Kakashi's Choice. Hearing Kainai's words, Kakashi seemed to have thought of something, frowned, and suddenly asked, can I understand that the Sand Ninja started the Chunin exam early this time because the Sand Ninja has colluded with the Sound Ninja where Orochimaru is, and Orochimaru is worried that Master Jiraiya and Master Tsunade will return to Konoha and hinder their actions? Or as you said, Orochimaru wanted to give the third Hokage a decent death before Master Tsunade comes back. So he started the Chunin exam early? You only guessed half of it right. Kainai chuckled. Hearing this, Kakashi became more confused, and then he heard Kainai say, Kakashi, I believe you are also aware of the twists and turns between Tsunagakure and Konoha. Because Konoha and Tsunagakure are in alliance, the daimyo of Wind Country has entrusted more commissions to Konoha, causing Tsunagakure's economy to plummet. It had to reduce its armaments. It even got to the point where the fourth Kazekage Rasa was forced to sell his own weapon, Gold Sand, in order to save Tsunagakure. It is not surprising that he joined forces with Orochimaru to attack Konoha. But it's a pity that Rasa and that old guy Sarutobi Hiruzen are the same type of people. They are good at internal fighting, but they are nothing when it comes to foreign affairs. They are simply childish. He actually believed the nonsense of Orochimaru and stupidly ran to the border of the Fire Country with several of his men to meet Orochimaru. There is no doubt that he was killed before the Chunin exam. The one who is giving orders to Tsunagakure now is just that kid Orochimaru who used special ninjutsu and disguised himself as Ratsa. Although Orochimaru is a traitor and has no attachment to Konoha, he will never let the Tsunagakure ninja get away with it. All he wants is to make the windmill of Konoha, which has been still because of Sarutobi Hiruzen, turn, rather than destroy the windmill itself. Rather than saying that Tsunagakure asked Konoha to start the official Chunin exam early, it would be better if it was Orochimaru himself who asked. And Jiraiya and Tsunade are already on their way back to Konoha. They will arrive tomorrow night at the latest. Orochimaru chose to start the Chunin exam tomorrow because he calculated the timing of their return. This way he can fulfill his teacher and let him die protecting Konoha in the name of Hokage and hero. At the same time, he will not let Konoha be completely destroyed. At the same time, he can show his strength to Sasuke so as to achieve the purpose of abduction in the future. Kill 3 birds with 1 stone, that guy Orochimaru. By the way, it's mutually beneficial with the Sandai guy. You can say they are worthy of being master and disciple. And Jiraiya knows this very well, because he will never stop it before Orochimaru and the Sandai decide the winner. In other words, rather than saying that this is a disaster for Konoha, it's better to say that this is a fast between the Sandai and Orochimaru, the master and disciple. And the price of this farce is that most of Konoha was destroyed, and countless Tsunagakure and Konoha ninjas were killed and injured. The crisis that you are about to face seems to be full of crises, but it is just a farce deliberately created by Sarutobi Hiruzen in order to put a perfect end to his self-proclaimed wonderful life. In Sarutobi Hiruzen's heart, you so-called Konoha ninjas are actually nothing. After all, in the old guy's heart, including himself, the only ones who can be called heroes are dead people. As soon as the words fell, the entire huge medical ward was silent, and the room was dead silent. Including Kakashi, the 4 of them turned pale, and began to doubt their lives. If what Kainai said was true, then what would these Konoha ninjas who were about to die in the flames of war tomorrow be? Why did they die? What did they die to protect? Was it just to fulfill the fast between Sarutobi Hiruzen and Orochimaru, the master and apprentice? After a long while, Kakashi was the first to react, and looked at Kainai again, his eyes full of complexity. You said that the purpose of the 3rd generation was to leave a good reputation for himself during his lifetime, and after his death. Orochimaru wanted to give the 3rd generation a decent reputation, and at the same time, show his powerful strength, abduct Sasuke, and make the windmill of Konoha turn again. So what is your purpose? Kainai smiled faintly and replied, probably just for fun. Whenever I see that old man of the 3rd generation getting so angry, I can't help but feel happy. Play? Kakashi frowned. Then why did you tell us all this? People like you shouldn't be so kind to come and remind us of this. Kainai chuckled and said, there are no eternal enemies, only eternal interests. I should have said that I'm here to help you. I can't stand Sarutobi Hiruzen, and don't want that old guy to die so easily. And it happens that you guys are ninjas who truly love Konoha and don't want this village to be poisoned. So I came here specifically to cooperate with you. Is this reason sufficient? In fact, he had 2 other reasons that he didn't tell. One was that Yuhi Kurenoi had done her utmost to satisfy him in bed last night, so she made the request. The other was that he didn't want his wife Tsunade to take over Konoha, which was a mess like in the original book. After all, his beloved daughter Chinatsu would live here in the future. Kakashi took a deep breath. How to cooperate? Might Guy said from the side. Hey, Kakashi, do you really believe what this guy said? He is. K, listen to him first. Kakashi interrupted my guy and stared at Kainai. Besides, this guy doesn't look like he is here to discuss with us. Talking to smart people is refreshing. Kainai smiled and touched his chin. Let me be frank, I can provide you with evidence that the 4th Kazekage Rasa is dead, so that you can avoid a meaningless fight with the Sand Village in tomorrow's Chunin exam official competition. The Sand Village without the 4th Kazekage will not pose any threat to Konoha. In order to protect itself, I believe the Sand Village will once again restore its previous alliance with Konoha. Kakashi frowned and asked, then what do you need us to do? You don't need to do anything, and I don't need you to do anything. As long as Sarutobi Hiruzen can die like a clown in the hands of Orochimaru, it will be enough. It's that simple. Kainai shrugged slightly and symbolically formed a seal with his right hand, and his body slowly turned into cherry blossom petals. Seeing that Kainai was about to disappear, Kakashi hurriedly shouted, "Hey, wait a minute. Don't worry, I will be there in person for the Chunin exam tomorrow, to see what the so-called strongest Hokage of all generations is capable of. The evidence of Rasa's death will also be given to you. But if any of you intend to tip off the old man Sunday, then I will let you go, and let you fight to the death with Tsunagakia." After leaving these words, Kainai's figure completely disappeared in the hospital. PS. The third update. Please recommend and vote for me monthly. Chapter 161. Tsunade returns. 3K chapter. Kakashi clenched the photo in his hand and sighed. This is troublesome. Hey Kakashi, what should we do now? Should we report to the Hokage? Might Guy said hesitantly. No, the Hokage's recent behavior is too abnormal, and the Konoha advisors are also closed since that day. Now it seems that what Chiya is saying is probably true. Kakashi shook his head. Might Guy said anxiously, that's not a big deal. If Sand Village is really used by Orochimaru, then Konoha will be in danger tomorrow. Hearing this, Kakashi closed his eyes, pondered for a moment, opened them suddenly, and looked at Marino Ibiki and Gekao Hayate, and said in a deep voice, "You two, do you believe me?" Marino Ibiki and Gekao Hayate heard the words, looked at each other, and nodded at the same time. They are not mediocre people. Although they are unwilling to believe Fujiwara Chiya's words, the facts are in front of them, and it is difficult for them not to believe. Okay then. Kakashi took a deep breath and looked at Gekko Hayate first. Hayate, according to what Fujiwara Chiya said, Lady Tsunade and Lord Jiraiya are already on their way to Konoha. Please go to the major traffic arteries of Konoha overnight and try to find them before the official Chunin exam begins. Then inform them of the news that the official Chunin exam will start early, as well as every word of what Fujiwara Chiya said today. Leave it to me. Gekko Hayate responded respectfully, walked to the closet, took out his clothes and changed them, then disappeared into the medical ward. Kakashi turned his gaze to Marino Ibiki. Ibiki, I'm leaving the interrogation department to you. Please conduct a thorough search around Konoha overnight to see if there are any Sand Ninja and Sound Ninja lurking. If things change, I hope you can pass the news to everyone as quickly as possible, so that we can be prepared in advance. No problem. Marino Ibiki agreed immediately, and then asked hesitantly, but today, do we really not need to notify the Hokage about this? Kakashi shook his head. You heard what Fujiwara Chiya said just now. If it's bluffing, then forget it. If the situation is true, even if we notify the Hokage, the Sand Village people who don't know that the 4th Kazekage is dead will still launch a surprise attack. I'm sure you don't want to see such a meaningless battle happen. In short, we must be prepared for the worst, and I will bear all the consequences alone. I understand. Marino Ibiki nodded heavily, and like Moonlight Gale, he changed his clothes and disappeared into the medical ward. Finally, Kakashi and my guy were the only ones left in the ward. Kakashi, what are we going to do? Might Guy looked at Kakashi. Tomorrow you will come with me to negotiate with the Sand Village. Kakashi sighed to the sky, changed and walked to the window, looking into the distance. At this moment, he only felt tired from all the previous things. Politics is really not something that ordinary people can get involved in. The more you get involved, the more confused you feel. As strong as his father was, he couldn't escape the end of being raped. If it weren't for his dead best friend Obito, he felt like lying down. On the other side, Kainai had returned to Zahikuna's residence. How is the situation? Seeing Kainai coming back, Zahikuna was very considerate and took off his red cloud black robe for him, gently smoothed it, and hung it in the storage closet. Don't worry, I've already told Kakashi, and that guy is not as stubborn as some people who will be fooled by Sarutobi Hiruzen. Compared with Sarutobi Hiruzen, the murderer of his father, he, like you, cares more about the safety of Konoha. Kainai walked behind Yuhi, hugged her, and said softly, Kuna, do you remember what you promised me last night? What is it? Yuhi face was red. A couple's bath. Kainai reminded. But I've already taken a bath. Yuhi wanted to cheat. Kainai smiled. It's okay, take a bath with me again. As he said, Kainai didn't care whether Yuhi agreed or not and carried her into the bathroom in her angry eyes. There was no words all night. The next morning, just after dawn, Kainai took Yuhi to play a friendly game and then returned to the hotel where he and Yikang were staying. The two disguised themselves and came to the official venue of the Chunin exam. At the same time, in a hot spring town 100 miles away from Konoha village, Jiraiya, Tsunade and their group finally set out on the journey to Konoha again. Tsunade was holding the sleepy Chinatsu with sleepy eyes, looking listless. Last night, the little girl was so excited that she almost didn't sleep for most of the night because she could see Kainai today, and even her mother didn't sleep well. Looking at Tsunade's sleepy appearance, Jiraiya asked in confusion, "Tsunade, didn't you sleep well last night?" "Yeah." This little ancestor knew that she would arrive in Konoha today, and she was so excited that she didn't sleep all night. "It would be strange if I could sleep well." Tsunade laughed. "Then how about I help you hold her?" Jiraiya's little eyes flashed with excitement. "Don't come here. I won't let you, a sultry pervert, touch my daughter." Tsunade glared at Jiraiya with disdain and turned her head to look at Naruto, who was walking at the back and trying his best to roll balls. "By the way, that yellow-haired kid is your disciple, right? What is he doing? Is he having a seizure?" "You are having a seizure." Naruto walked over quickly. "I'm practicing. Practicing. You don't have to have a seizure when practicing." Tsunade said something that was so infuriating that it would kill people. "What is seizure?" "This is Rasengan, 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 the A-level ninjutsu that Jiraiya taught me," Naruto said madly. "Then why don't you show it to me?" Hearing this, Tsunade immediately became interested. Because her little man had created a ninjutsu like this by observing the tailed beast ball of the Three Tails Jinchuriki. And he also created a series of ninjutsu with extremely strong lethality by integrating various familiar chakras. "I can't use it." Naruto seemed like a deflated ball. "Why?" Tsunade asked casually. Jiraiya explained in a low voice. "Rasengan requires a user to have super chakra control ability, and Naruto's chakra control is not very good. And because of the influence of the Nine Tails in his body, he has not been able to condense chakra well. Even if he uses both hands, he can't rub it out, let alone one hand. Two hands won't work. Can't a few more hands be done?" Tsunade stopped, thinking of the training method that Kainai had told her, and tilted her head to look at Naruto. "Boy, aren't you good at shadow clones? By using shadow clones, can't you improve chakra condensation?" Shadow clone. Jiraiya and Naruto's eyes lit up at the same time. Without much hesitation, Naruto used the shadow clone, and the result was undoubtedly successful. He pressed the ball against a big tree on the side of the road, and a big hole was immediately pierced through the tree. Naruto immediately jumped up happily. "Ah, it succeeded. The lecherous immortal Tsunade mother-in-law, I succeeded." Tsunade. Mother-in-law Tsunade's mouth twitched fiercely. "Don't be angry, Tsunade. Children should not be afraid of what they say. Children should not be afraid of what they say." Jiraiya, who was standing by, saw this and was worried that Tsunade would be angry, so he quickly changed the subject. "But speaking of which, Tsunade, your method is really effective. It can actually allow this kid to master this move." "Of course." Tsunade looked proud. "You know, this was researched by her little man." At this moment, a figure suddenly flashed out of the jungle and landed in front of Tsunade and her group. It was Gekko Hayate, who was ordered by Kakashi to search for Jiraiya and Tsunade. Gekko Hayate coughed lightly, knelt on one knee in front of the two, and said respectfully, "Jiraiya-sama, Tsunade-sama. Oh, it's Hayate, Kit. Why isn't there still a week before the Chunin exam? The agreed deadline hasn't even arrived yet. Why is the old man so anxious to ask you to come over?" Jiraiya said with some surprise. "Jiraiya-sama, actually, it wasn't Hokage-sama who asked me to come, but Kakashi. The official Chunin exam has been moved up, and the date is set for today." Moonlight Gale replied. As soon as the voice fell, not far away, who was just unhappy because of the Rasengan, ran over to argue. "Examiner, why is this happening? I haven't gone back to participate yet." "Naruto, be quiet." Jiraiya heard that something was wrong and asked Moonlight Gale with a serious face, "What's going on?" Hearing this, Moonlight Gale did not answer directly, but looked at Shizune, Naruto, and Karen and Kazuki behind them. Jiraiya and Tsunade looked at each other, and Tsunade frowned and said, "Speak. There are no outsiders here, if you still think of me as the future 5th Hokage." "Yes, Tsunade-sama." Moonlight Gale heard the words, took a deep breath, hesitated for a while, and told them that Kanai had come to see them yesterday evening. Everyone was stunned after hearing it, especially Tsunade, when she heard that Chiya took the photo of Danzo transplanting her grandfather's cells and Sharingan. Her expression was so wonderful. The old man is confused. Jiraiya cursed. His face was more ugly than ever before. He didn't expect that the old man would put Konoha in great danger for the so-called reputation. "Jiraiya, it seems that you didn't tell me about Danzo." Tsunade looked at Jiraiya with a cold face. "I'm sorry, Tsunade, but now is not the time to pursue these things. No one knows what Fujiwara Chiya is going to do yet. The most urgent thing is to return to Konoha as soon as possible. Please, Tsunade." In front of everyone, Jiraiya made hand seals with both hands, summoned a big toad, and then bowed to Tsunade. "Okay, but let me say this first. I will not let go of the matter of old Danzo easily." Speaking of her little man, Tsunade was also a little anxious. Just like that, everyone jumped onto the big toad and sped up their journey back to Konoha. Chapter 162. Uzi, the pretentious one. The official venue of the Chunin exam. The sky is blue, with occasional white clouds floating by. The sun is warm but not scorching. The breeze blows by, making people feel refreshed. The official Chunin exam jointly held by Sand Village and Konoha will kick off today. Since the first ray of sunlight in the morning broke through the shackles of the earth and shone on this once large village in the ninja world, figures dressed in various ninja costumes began to appear in groups of 3 or 2 on the quiet streets. These ninjas from other villages are usually hard to see in Konoha, but today, they are constantly emerging, escorting princes and even daimyo from various countries to enter the gate of Konoha from outside Konoha. Although they come from different countries, their destination is the official venue of the Chunin exam standing in Konoha village. It's really lively. I guess after today, even if the Chunin exam is held again, it will never be so grand in the future. After some disguises, Kanai took Yikang into the audience stands and found an inconspicuous position to sit down. Yikang replied, "It seems to be because of the brat from the Uchiha clan. But then again, is the Sharingan really that powerful? Because Tsunagakure and Konoha are allies, and before the Uchiha clan was exterminated, the Konoha high-level officials sent most of the Uchiha clan members to the battlefield of Mist Village, which can restrain the Sharingan and fire release, in order to weaken the power of the Uchiha clan. So Yikang has never really fought with the Sharingan." Kanai nodded, "I guess so, but it depends on who uses it. After all, how much power a sword can exert depends, not on the sword itself, but on the person holding the sword." While talking, the audience looked at the arena built by the huge circular wall under the stands. Gara, Hyuganiji, Kankuro, Temari, Aburame Shino, Daruno Sakura, Yamana Kurino, Nera Shikamaru and other participating genin also walked in one after another. The only missing 4 people were Toss, Naruto, Nobushiro, and Kabuto. According to Toss, the impure world reincarnation that has been made into the first Hokage is impossible to come. Naruto is on his way on a big toad. The second pillar is also on his way back because he has been training day and night on the top of the cliff. As for Kabuto, he is one of the key figures in Orochimaru's plan to collapse Konoha this time. He has already changed into the Anbu costume early, just like the original, hiding in the audience stands and lurking. Noticing the disguised Kanai and the other 2, he walked over and sat next to Kanai. In a voice that only the 3 of them could hear, he said respectfully, "Master Kanai, don't worry, I will not interfere with his battle with the 3rd Hokage this time." Kanai glanced at Orochimaru, who was already dressed as the Kazekage and sitting next to Sarutobi Hiruzen, and said meaningfully, "But after the winner is decided, you must prepare what I need, otherwise you will be in big trouble afterwards." Of course. Kabuto Yakishi's face under the mask was soaked with cold sweat. He responded respectfully and returned to the last row of the audience. At this time, the game finally started. Perhaps it was intentional by Konoha, the organizer, that the list of players was not much different from the original. Hiruno Sakura vs. Yamanaka Rino, Kankuro vs. Aburame Shino, Temari vs. Nera Shikamaru, Hyuga Niji vs. Uzumaki Naruto, Gaara vs. Uchiha Sasuke. Because Naruto and the two pillars were not present, their matches were left to the end. The first match was between Sakura, the weakest of the 10, and Ino. At this time, the gap between the common people and the children of the family was truly reflected. Sakura, who knew almost no magic except the three-body technique, resisted Ino's heart-turning technique for a time because of her dual personality, but that was all. After nearly a month of training by the elders of the family, Ino's heart-turning technique was far beyond the preliminaries. It took almost no effort for Sakura to be controlled. But because of their childhood friendship, Ino did not choose to win by relying on the family secret technique, but chose to use the most basic physical technique. But despite this, Sakura, who gave up on herself because of Sasuke and had no one to guide her, still lost after wasting more than 20 days. The first game ended in the eyes of everyone with little interest. The second game, Kankuro vs. Aburame Shino, Kankuro gave up to preserve his strength because he didn't want to expose the secret of the crow. The third game, Shikamaru vs. Temari, Shikamaru admitted defeat because of the exhaustion of chakra while controlling Temari. The game finally came to the last two games. But because Naruto and the two pillars, who were the participants, did not show up, they could not be suspended. At the suggestion of Orochimaru, who was dressed as the Kazekage, a 10-minute pause was made. If both of them did not show up, they would be regarded as giving up. In order to meet the expectations of the audience, Niji would fight Gaara instead. 10 minutes passed quickly. Just when the referee Shiranojinma was about to announce that Naruto and the two pillars gave up and Niji would fight Gaara, a whirlwind suddenly blew up in the arena, bringing up smoke and fallen leaves on the ground. When the smoke and dust cleared and the leaves slowly fell, Kakashi and Nibiru, back to back, appeared in front of everyone in the audience in an extremely pretentious way. "Hey, Kakashi, you really can't change your habit of being late." This was the first sentence that the referee Genma Shiranu said after seeing Kakashi and Nibiru. Sorry. Kakashi smiled and looked around. His eyes swept over my guy, Marino Ibiki and Maki in turn. His brows slightly frowned, and he disappeared in an instant. After a moment, he reappeared in the audience stand. Marino Ibiki and Might Guy saw Kakashi coming and hurried over. Marino Ibiki whispered, "Kakashi, a large number of Sand Ninja and Sound Ninja have indeed gathered outside Konoha, and judging from the situation, the Sound Ninja seem to be out in full force. It seems to be true." Kakashi sighed lightly, his face under the mask becoming more solemn. He looked around the audience stands, looking for Kainai's figure, and asked, "How is Hayate? Is there any news?" "Not yet." Might Guy shook his head. "This is troublesome." Kakashi looked up at Orochimaru, who was sitting next to Sarutobi Hiruzen, and whispered, "Whether this Kazekage is real or fake, it is extremely bad for Konoha." Might Guy asked, "Kakashi, what should we do now?" Kakashi thought for a moment and said, "Anyway, Ibiki, let your men pass this news to various departments first. Take all precautions. As for K, stay here with me to find Kainai. Leave it to me." Marino Ibiki responded with a solemn expression and disappeared in the audience stands. PS. First update. Please recommend and vote for me. Thanks to Shui Chang for the 5,000 starting coins. Thanks to Mingbishashang Mengbiwa for the 1,500 starting coins. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 163, The Funny Konoha Collapse Plan. At this moment, a little girl with a cute ponytail came over with an envelope, tugged at Kakashi's trousers, and said in a baby voice, "Are you the sultry pervert Kakashi?" Kakashi's mouth twitched fiercely under the mask. A black line appeared on his forehead. Half squatted down and said awkwardly, "I'm Kakashi, but I'm not a sultry pervert. Little sister, what can I do for you?" When I came in, A handsome big brother gave me some candies and asked me to give this to you. The little girl handed over the envelope in her hand. This should be the evidence that Kainai said. Thinking so in his heart, Kakashi took the envelope, stroked the little girl's head gently, and smiled. I know. Then little sister, you may be in danger next. You should go back to your parents as soon as possible. Yeah. The little girl responded in a baby voice and turned and ran away. Kakashi, this should be the evidence that Kainai said. Might Guy looked at the envelope in Kakashi's hand, and his thick eyebrows immediately frowned. Probably. Kakashi also frowned, slowly opened the envelope, and a stack of photos appeared inside. The first photo was of Luosha who was stabbed like a hedgehog, and the next one was a bloody picture of Yakushi Kabuto peeling people's skin. This is. Kakashi's forehead was sweating. I'll leave this to you. After greeting my guy, Kakashi came to Maki's side in an instant without any hesitation. Hey, Maki of Sand Ninja, if you don't want the Sand Ninja to sacrifice in vain, follow me. Leaving this sentence, Kakashi disappeared in the audience stands. Kakashi, what does that guy mean? Maki sighed, hesitated for a while, and followed. Looking at the place where the two disappeared, Kabuto's face under the mask showed a hint of doubt, and he thought to himself, what did Kakashi find? Forget it, I can't care about so much now, it's almost time. On the other side, Kakashi and the other two have arrived outside the stadium. It seems that you have discovered something, but at this point, what else can we say? Maki stood behind Kakashi and asked with a frown. No, you will know. After looking at this, Kakashi turned around and threw the envelope that Kainai had asked someone to give him to Maki. Maki looked at Kakashi warily, tore open the envelope with half belief, and a stack of photos slipped out. When he saw Luosha who was pierced by the kunai like a hedgehog, Maki's pupils shrank immediately, and the whole person fell into extreme excitement. He questioned Kakashi. Hey Kakashi, where did you get this thing? I don't know either. I can only say that a very troublesome guy gave it to me. Anyway, you just keep looking at it. Kakashi didn't explain too much. Hearing this, Maki did as he was told and flipped through the remaining photos. Suddenly, the complete process of Kabuto Yakushi peeling off Rasa's skin appeared. It was that guy Kabuto Yakushi. Kakashi said in a deep voice, I guess you have understood after seeing this. The person sitting next to a Hokage is not your Kazekage, but Orochimaru. You sand ninjas are just objects being used. That bastard Kabuto. Maki's shoulders trembled slightly, and the envelope wrapped in the photos was pinched into a twist by him. He said sternly, what do you want? Nothing. I just want to stop this upcoming war, and you should also know that you can't win this war without the Kazekage. Kakashi said seriously. Maki said, okay, but I have one condition, that is, Konoha cannot go to Tsunagakure to make trouble afterwards. Kakashi shrugged and spread his hands. I can't promise you this. The negotiation is the business of those Konoha high-level officials. They have always been weak. I'm sure you know this, so you can rest assured about this. Besides, you don't want to see your companions die in this meaningless war. Okay, I promise you, I will withdraw the Tsunagakure lurking around Konoha, but I can't command Orochimaru's Otonin. Thinking of the weakness of Konoha's high-level officials, Maki finally agreed. You don't have to worry about this. Hearing this, Kakashi also breathed a sigh of relief. At this moment, countless feathers suddenly floated above the competition venue. That's... Kakashi stared at the sky and was suddenly startled. That's Kabuto's illusion. It seems that it has already started. Maki said on the side. In that case, I'll leave it to you to notify Tsunagakure. As soon as the voice fell, Kakashi disappeared from the spot, rushed to the competition venue. Maki hesitated for a moment, and between Gaara's three siblings and the Tsunagakure ninjas, he finally chose to notify the latter first. In the arena, the battle between Nabashi and Gaara has come to an end. Although Gaara was touched by Naruto's words in the Forest of Death more than half a month ago, but before he was really defeated, Gaara was at most better to Temari and Kankuro, who were his family members. Usually he was still a cruel and bloodthirsty middle school student. As in the original work, facing Nabashi who copied Rock Lee's physical skills, Gaara's sand speed could not keep up with Nabashi's speed, and was suppressed for a time. he had no choice but to use the sand desert wave to form a layer of defensive and offensive protective wall with sand in preparation for the sleep technique. As a result, under Nabashi's newly learned Chidori, the sand desert wave was broken. Gaara was injured and severely hit, and the sleep technique was forcibly interrupted. Nabashi's arm was also stuck by the sand. With a creaking sound, the sand wave shattered and turned back into sand. The two pillars took the opportunity to distance themselves from Gaara. It's almost time. Looking at the two pillars separated from Gaara in the field, Kabuto performed the Nirvana Jinx technique. Suddenly, white feathers flew all over the audience stand, and almost all the people in the field fell into a coma instantly. At the same time, the four Otoshi ninjas standing behind Orochimaru, pretending to be the guards of the wind shadow, threw a flare mixed with smoke. Boom. With a roar, the Otoshi ninjas led by Kabuto jumped out of the dark and blocked the Konoha ninjas who intended to rescue the third generation Hokage. Under the cover of the four Otoshi ninjas, Orochimaru used a kunai to hold Sarutobi Hiruzen hostage above the audience stand to the highest dome. The four Otoshi ninjas performed the four purple flame formation, covering the two of them and stifling the possibility of reinforcement from the Anbu directly under the Hokage. A farce-like Konoha collapse plan kicked off. PS. Second update. Please recommend and vote for me. Third update. Please wait. Chapter 164 The Furious Third Generation. Reset. In the arena. At this time, Kankuro and Temari, who didn't know that the Sand Ninja had withdrawn from the Konoha collapse plan, protected the injured Gaara and wanted to take him away from Konoha. Asshole, I guess this noise was caused by you, the Sand Ninja, in conjunction with Orochimaru. Shiranagenma, who was also unaware of the situation, looked up at the third Hokage, trapped in the four purple flame formation, and glared at Gaara's siblings. So what? Kankuro tutted and untied the crow behind him, secretly anxious in his heart. Why hasn't Mr. Maki come yet? Temari also took out the 3-star fan behind her and waited for the battle. Shiranagenma took a bite of the iron stick in his mouth. If that's the case, then I can't let you go. Just when the battle between the two sides was about to break out, Kakashi suddenly appeared between Shiranagenma and Gaara's siblings and said sternly, "Stop it. Kakashi, they are the Sand Ninjas, but they are the Hokage-sama," Shiranagenma said angrily. "Take a good look, Genma, that's not the Kazekage at all, but Orochimaru in disguise." Kakashi looked up at the dome at the highest point of the audience stand and happened to see Orochimaru tearing off his disguise. Seeing this, Gaara's 3 siblings, Shiranagenma, and the 2 pillars were all shocked. Temari couldn't help asking, "What on earth is going on?" Kakashi said in a deep voice, "The real 4th Kazekage is dead, and you Tsunagakure are just being used by Orochimaru. Now your leading Jonin has left Konoha to stop those Tsunagakure ambushing outside Konoha village. If you don't want to become a sinner of Tsunagakure, leave Konoha as soon as possible." How could it be? Hearing that their father had died, Kankuro and Temari's eyes were instantly empty, and Gaara recalled his experience with Rasa in his mind, and his head was splitting. He couldn't help but cover his head and screamed, "Ah hey, Gaara, what's wrong with you?" Kankuro asked worriedly. "Quick Kankuro, Temari, take me out of Konoha." Gaara looked up and directly scared Kankuro, Temari, Kakashi, Shiranagenma, and Nibashi, because at this moment one of Gaara's eyes had become Shukaku's. Hearing this, Temari and Kankuro swallowed hard, looked at each other, suppressed the fear in their hearts, supported Gaara, and flew out of Konoha. "Hey, Kakashi, what was that just now?" Sasuke couldn't help asking. Shiranagenma also had a drop of cold sweat on his forehead. "There is no time to explain too much to you. Anyway, come with me to deal with those Otonin." Leaving this sentence, Kakashi disappeared in the arena. This guy's really infuriating. Shiranagenma sighed and followed. Only Nabashi couldn't hold back his curiosity and followed in the direction of Gaara. In the audience, Sakura, who was not affected by Kabuto's illusion because of her dual personality, saw that the 2 pillars were chasing Gaara and the others, and hurriedly shouted to Kakashi, who was already fighting with the Sand Ninja, "Kakashi-sensei, Sasuke's chasing those Sand Ninjas." However, his voice did not call Kakashi, but instead called to Sand Ninjas, who threw kunai at Sakura. Sakura was so scared that she could only hold her head and close her eyes. Fortunately, Kakashi arrived in time and dealt with the two sound ninjas. Okay, it's okay, Sakura. Looking at Sakura's embarrassment, Kakashi sighed helplessly. Kakashi-sensei. Sasuke. Sakura said with red eyes. I know. They are really problem children. Kakashi looked around. Considering that there was Chiya with unclear intentions in the dark, and there were many sound ninjas around, he couldn't get away. Finally, he set his eyes on Shikamaru and said, Sakura, you have the ability to dispel illusions. Go wake up Shikamaru, and then go find Neji and Shino who didn't have time to participate in the competition, and bring Sasuke back to me. At this point, he formed seals with his hands, and used summoning to summon the ninja dog Puck. Puck will lead you to find Sasuke. Soon, Sakura, Shikamaru, Neji, and Aburame Shino left the stadium. In a corner of the audience stand, Kanai saw all this, and murmured in his heart, it seems that the second pillar, in the end, still couldn't escape the fate of fighting with the tailed beast Gaara, and a beating is inevitable. But the person chasing the second pillar is interesting. The eldest brother-in-law also followed. It seems that even without Asuma's rescue, Shikamaru will not die in the hands of the sound ninja this time. Is this the protagonist's halo? Yikang on the side, made a seal with his right hand, dispelled the illusion, took out a scroll from his arms, and looked at Kanai. Master Kanai. Don't worry, before that, you have to meet this legendary ninja god, right? You just wait for my signal here. Kanai shook his head and pulled off his disguise, revealing a red cloud black robe and black hair, as well as a scratched Konoha forehead protector. He disappeared in the audience stand in an instant. At the moment Kanai disappeared, above the dome, Sarutobi Hiruzen performed an extremely poor shuriken shadow clone technique. Orochimaru had already performed the impure world reincarnation, using the coffins of the first and second Hokage to block the shuriken. He originally wanted to summon the third one, the fourth Hokage, but because the fourth Hokage performed the Shikifujin and his soul was devoured by the god of death, he failed to summon it. It seems that I have finally stopped the third one, but the next step is the most troublesome. Seeing that the fourth Hokage's coffin was not summoned, Sarutobi Hiruzen was full of confidence and thought that he had blocked the third impure world reincarnation. He breathed a sigh of relief and a hint of pride appeared between his eyebrows. Third generation old man, what are you so happy about? This third coffin is not something that your broken shuriken clone can stop. It's just that Orochimaru can't summon it. A clear voice suddenly echoed above the dome. Kanai, holding the Zanpakuto Kyokusu Jetsu, appeared silently outside the four purple flame formation, and stood there quietly, as if he should have belonged there. Fujiwara Chiya. Sarutobi Hiruzen was startled. He looked in the direction of the voice, saw who it was, and instantly his lungs were about to explode. His eyes almost spewed fire. This guy destroyed his family, killed his eldest son, castrated his youngest son and eldest grandson, and ruined his reputation. Now he is about to die, but he is still unwilling to let him go. He has never seen such an evil kid. It is even more evil than the Uchiha clan. PS. The third update. Please recommend and vote for the monthly ticket. Thank Shuei Chang for the reward of 5,000 Kidian coins. Thank Mengbi Shushan Mengbi Wa Shuai *** 9,920 for the reward of 1,500 Kidian coins. Chapter 165. The end of Sarutobi Hiruzen. On the other side, Orochimaru's face suddenly became solemn. He stared at Kanai and forced a smile. Oh, Kanai, I thought you were waiting for me to kill the third Hokage before you were willing to show up. Although he had already reborn the first and second Hokage, he knew his own business. His impure world reincarnation was not mature, and in order to prevent the accident of the third Kazekage escaping from the impure world reincarnation last time, and to give his teacher a decent face and let him truly become the strongest Hokage of all generations, he suppressed the strength of the two Hokage again and again. Even the sacrifices for the impure world reincarnation were genuine. It has been suppressed to the limit. At best, he barely entered the cage level. Excluding the immortal body of the impure world reincarnation, his overall strength is slightly inferior to that of Sarutobi Hiruzen now. If he faced Kainai at this moment, I'm afraid that he would still be in danger of death like the previous 2 times. It's a rare opportunity to see the legendary god of ninja. Wouldn't it be a pity if we don't meet him? Kainai completely ignored Sarutobi Hiruzen, glanced at the 2 sound 4 closest to him, and said lightly, "Okay, let your Talakis open the barrier." Kainai-kun doesn't seem surprised that I was able to unearth the first and second Hokage. Hearing this, Orochimaru had no intention of letting Kainai in. He just looked at Kainai with a serious expression, his eyes full of vigilance. Kainai nodded, "Of course. After all, you summoned the 3rd Kazekage in the Land of Wind, so how could you not summon this legendary ninja god when you come to Konoha?" Seeing that Orochimaru had no intention of letting him in, Kainai smiled lightly and added, "Don't worry, I'm not interested in participating in your fast between master and apprentice. I just want to have a chat with these 2 Hokage. I'll leave after the chat. And you don't want me to break this barrier, do you?" Orochimaru hesitated, opened the coffin, released the first and second Hokage, and winked at Teuiron Sakon, the closest to Kainai. The latter 2 understood, and at the same time, they formed a seal to open a small hole in front of Kainai. "Don't even think about it." Seeing that Kainai wanted to go in, the Anbu directly under the Hokage were worried that he would join forces with Orochimaru to harm the 3rd team, so they loyally protected their master, and one by one, they used instant body, holding Kyuubi in their hands, and rushed towards Kainai at the same time. Kainai smiled and formed a symbolic seal with his right hand. A chakra invisible to the naked eye, with a strong sound of breaking through the air, spread out from his body. Before those Anbu could get close to Kainai, they were touched by the chakra wave, and the whole person flew backwards like a cannonball, hitting the dome of the audience stand next door. The chakra wave continued to move forward, and suddenly, it spread to the whole venue, instantly dispelling the illusion of everyone present. The 1st generation Hokage Senju Hashirama and the 2nd generation Hokage Senju Tobirama walked out of the coffin at the same time. Sensing the huge chakra released by Kainai, Senju Tobirama looked him up and down, frowned slightly, and said in a deep voice, "This chakra is not. You seem to have a huge amount of immortal energy hidden in your body. Young man, did you use the impure world reincarnation to summon us? I'm honored to be praised by the legendary fastest ninja in the world, but it was not me who summoned you two." Kainai smiled slightly, and at the moment when the eyes of the 1st and 2nd generations of Hokage looked at him, he whispered in his heart, "Shatter, Kagami Water Moon." Silently released Kagami Water Moon. "Is it you? You can actually summon us with forbidden techniques. You are really an amazing young man." Senju Tobirama heard the words, and did not realize that he had been hit by Kagami Water Moon, and looked behind him. Senju Hashirama also looked sideways, and a trace of haze flashed in his pupils. Hearing this, Orochimaru pushed over the coffin that summoned the 2 Hokage and smiled confidently, but before he could reply, Kainai said, "It's him. His name is Orochimaru. He is the disciple of our 3rd Hokage who calls himself the strongest Hokage of all time, and he is your great-grandson. In order to give honor to our teacher, he even used the immature impure world reincarnation to resurrect you. I'm afraid you can't even exert 1/10 of your strength in your prime now. It's to give Sarutobi Hiruzen a decent death. In this way, even if he dies in battle today, he will be worthy of the title of strongest Hokage of all time when facing the 2 of them at the same time. As for killing him, strongest Hokage of all time Orochimaru, it goes without saying. And our 3rd Hokage, who claims to have surpassed the god of ninja and the speediest in the ninja world, is a good successor you have chosen. He did a lot of stupid things when he was alive. Now he is old. In order to die as a hero like you two, protecting Konoha, he knew that his disciples had a conspiracy, but he still did not stop the exam and take effective measures. Now Konoha is in the flames of war. Kainai said this in a weird tone, and looked at Sarutobi Hiruzen with interest. "Monkey, what's going on?" Hearing this, the 2nd generation Hokage frowned slightly, and questioned Sarutobi Hiruzen. The 1st generation Hokage never said anything from beginning to end. For this former ninja god, people are dead. Even if there are problems, they should be solved by their descendants. The ancestors should not interfere too much. Hearing this, the 3rd generation junior broke out in a cold sweat, and tried his best to argue, Sir, second, don't listen to this traitor's nonsense. He is a rebel ninja who walked out of our village. He is born evil and has bad intentions. Not only did he massacre the Sarutobi clan and the Shimura clan, but this time, when he returned to the village, he hurt many of our Konoha's jonin. He deserves to be killed. What a born evil, bad intention, and murderous heart. Kainai pursed his lips and smiled. Then your heart is better? To Hokage. Feel it carefully. The village you left behind has been ruined by our third Hokage. Looking at the whole Konoha, there is not even a decent cage level ninja. And this first generation ninja god, don't you feel that in addition to the Sarutobi clan and the Shimura clan, there is another family missing? Hearing this, the first generation Hokage closed his eyes and sensed it slightly and finally spoke. It's the Uchiha family. Kainai nodded. Of course, since your death, your good brother has begun to believe that the Uchiha clan is an inherently evil clan. In order to prevent the Uchiha clan from having someone like Uchiha Madara again, they have begun to suppress them constantly. But at least your brother knows how to measure himself and knows how to give someone a sweet reward after a beating. PS. First update. Please vote for recommendation and monthly votes. Thanks to Shui Chang for the 5,000 Kidian coins reward yesterday. Chapter 166. Throwing dirty water on Denzo. At this point, Kainai's mouth suddenly raised a sly smile, and he began to speak ill of Denzo. But after your brother died, the disciples of our second Hokage only learned to suppress him. The Konoha high-level officials headed by Sarutobi Hiruzen did everything they could. Among them, there was a very serious one named Shimura Danzo. In order to completely wipe out the Uchiha family, he also eliminated the fourth Hokage who had just taken office and cleared the obstacles for himself to become Hokage. He waited until the fourth Hokage's wife Uzumaki Kushina, the second Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, gave birth, and then launched an attack. He released the Nine-Tails, and used the Sharingan to create the Nine-Tails Rebellion of that year. Konoha was almost destroyed, and countless villagers and ninjas were killed and injured. He put the blame on the Uchiha clan. And our third Hokage is not a good guy either. Due to the defeat in the Third Ninja World War, he was forced to step down from the position of Hokage. In order to regain his full strength, he acquiesced to Danzo's move. In order to clear himself of the charges and avoid suspicion, he even sent his wife to the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki to deliver her baby. Then he was killed by Shimura Danzo. Asshole, you are talking nonsense. At this moment, Sarutobi Hiruzen was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. He had always been the only one who could turn black into white, but he didn't expect that today he would become the object of black and white. How can I talk nonsense? I have evidence. Kainai casually took out a photo of Danzo and the third generation old monkey partying. Seeing the photo, Sarutobi Hiruzen snorted, and his heart sank to the bottom of the valley. It was so cold. Fire style, fire dragon flame bomb. Without any hesitation, he quickly formed seals with both hands and Sarutobi Hiruzen used the fire dragon flame bomb. A powerful chakra gathered in Sarutobi Hiruzen's throat, propping up his entire chest, and then suddenly spurted out, turning into a huge beam of flame, which was divided into 3 directions, front, left, and right, and covered Kainai. Water escape, water curtain tent. Kainai smiled, murmured, and symbolically formed a seal with his right hand. The next moment, a huge water wall rose out of thin air between him and Sarutobi Hiruzen, instantly splitting the huge 4 purple flame formation into 2 areas. The fire dragon flame bomb collided with the water wall and immediately ignited a large cloud of water mist, but until the flame disappeared, the water wall was not shaken at all. What? Are you in such a hurry? Can't wait to kill to silence the witness? But before you do that, you have to assess your own strength first. If the first Hokage or the second Hokage in their prime were here, then I naturally would not be able to defeat them. But your so-called strongest Hokage of all time are nothing but a grain of sand, not even half as good as me. Asshole. Sarutobi Hiruzen was so angry when he heard this that he gritted his teeth. Just as he was about to continue his attack, the voice of the second Hokage suddenly rang in his ears. Enough, monkey, you are no match for this young boy. Listen to what he has to say first. The huge chakra in his body exceeds that of me in my prime, second only to my eldest brother. When these words came out, everyone was shocked, including Orochimaru. Sarutobi Hiruzen, and even the surrounding ninjas and the audience who had lifted the illusion. Of course, Sarutobi Hiruzen and Orochimaru, as well as the first and second Hokage, did not know that the audience around them had woken up. They were still under the spell of the Mirror Flower and Water Moon, and still thought that the audience in the field was still in a coma. The second Hokage looked at Sarutobi Hiruzen deeply, and turned his eyes to Kainai. "Young man, what evidence do you have?" "Danzo was once my student. I know him. Even if he has this ambition, he does not have this ability. Even if he transplanted the Sharingan, the ordinary Sharingan cannot control the Nine Tails. What if the cells of this ninja god are added?" Kainai threw the photo over casually. At the same time, Yi Kang, who received the signal, removed his disguise, took out a scroll from his sleeve, and threw it into the sky. The scroll spread out in the air, and countless tiny black shadows sprang out of it, turning into photos and floating everywhere. In the eyes of Orochimaru, the third and the two Hokage, most of the people in the field were still asleep. Kakashi and others were still fighting with the Sound Ninja. But in the eyes of the audience who have already woken up, the Konoha ninjas who are fighting with the Otonin and Kabuto, it is different. They are photos that record the carnival of Konoha F4. Suddenly, the huge competition field was in an uproar. What is this? The second generation Hokage took the photo. His pupils shrank immediately, and he looked at Sarutobi Hiruzen again, full of anger. "Monkey, what is going on?" The first generation Hokage saw Danzo's right arm full of Sharingan, and transplanted with his own cells, and also frowned, and said in a deep voice, "Monkey, you are corrupted." First generation. Second generation. The evidence is as strong as a mountain, and Sarutobi Hiruzen is suffering at this moment. Kainai was possessed by the spirit of drama, showing a look of compassion. "You see, my two Hokages, the one who attacked Konoha was a mysterious masked man. His left eye was covered by the mask, and a Sharingan was exposed in his right eye. It took me a long time to investigate it. Unfortunately, many innocent civilians and ninjas in Konoha lost their lives because of the selfishness of the two apprentices of the second Hokage, Shimura Danzo and Sarutobi Hiruzen. I'm sure you should have guessed what happened later. The fourth Hokage and his wife died in the battle to seal the Nine Tails. Sarutobi Hiruzen took over the position of Hokage again, and then the thief cried thief, constantly slandering the Uchiha clan with public opinion and blatantly suppressing and monitoring them. The Uchiha clan was excluded from the center of the village, isolated, and finally forced to embark on the path of a coup. Our strongest Hokage of all generations once again used his expertise to brainwash and deceive the eldest son of the current patriarch of the Uchiha clan to join forces with Danzo, who was disguised as a masked man again, to wipe out the Uchiha clan. My best friend happened to be in the Uchiha clan, and was killed by them. I originally wanted to take revenge, but when I went to the Sarutobi clan, I was shocked. Guess what I found out? It turns out that our most powerful Hokage in history is not only power hungry, but also a guy who lines his own pockets. His Sarutobi clan is simply a borer. It keeps sucking the nutrients of the big tree of Konoha. Other clans have become increasingly weak in the three ninja world wars, but the Sarutobi clan of our most powerful Hokage in history is getting stronger and stronger. There are more than 2,000 ninjas alone, which exceeds the total number of Uchiha and Senju clans at their peak. Not only that, they have never carried out any dangerous missions. Even during the Nine Tails Rebellion, they retreated like the route to which Danzo belonged. As a result, they were separated from their wives and children and their families were destroyed. But their Sarutobi clan is safe and sound. It continues to grow in secret. If it continues like this, I'm afraid that sooner or later, the huge Konoha village will be renamed Sarutobi Village. PS. Second update. Please recommend and monthly votes. Chapter 167. The old monkey is denounced by the people of Konoha. Kainai continued, I might as well go all out and wipe out the families of Sarutobi Hiruzen and Shimura Danzo. This can be regarded as a comfort to the many who died in the Nine Tails Rebellion. This time, what I didn't expect was that he actually watched his disciples launch this farce of Konoha's collapse plan in order to leave a good reputation for himself. It's really sad. At this point, Kainai pointed at Sarutobi Hiruzen. Take a good look. This is your third Hokage. Take a good look at what kind of person this bad old man is. After hearing Kainai's words, the first Hokage sighed helplessly, looked at the third Hokage again, his eyes full of disappointment. Monkey, are these all true? First Hokage, please listen to my explanation. Hearing this, Sarutobi Hiruzen's eyes flashed with guilt, and he wanted to refute, but his words seemed so pale and powerless. Although Kainai said that the part about Danzo releasing the Nine Tails was false, it was true that the Sarutobi family was a borer of Konoha. Seeing the guilty look of the third Hokage, the first Hokage became more and more disappointed. He turned his head to look at the second Hokage and sighed. Tobirama, you've got the wrong person. Brother, this kid is a traitor. Don't trust him. The second Hokage chose to take the initiative to excuse the third Hokage. Although he no longer believed in the third Hokage, he was still the Hokage of Konoha. As the symbol of Konoha, he had to protect it, even if it was true. Then how do you explain this, Danzo? The Sharingan on his arm and my cells don't look fake. Tobirama, how many times have I told you not to look down on Uchiha? The bold and straightforward first Hokage said sternly. Okay, big brother, now is not the time to talk about this. Senju Tobirama interrupted Hashirama's words and looked at Kainai again, his eyes revealing an undisguised murderous intent. Kid, I don't care what your reason is, but as a Konoha ninja, you defected from the village. Now you tell us so much, is it to excuse yourself for defecting from the village? No, I never thought of excusing myself. I just want to tell everyone the truth. Kainai smiled, holding the mirror flower and water moon in his right hand, and whispered softly, shatter, mirror flower and water moon. Suddenly, the picture in the eyes of Sarutobi Hiruzen, the first and second generation Hokage, was like a mirror, and it shattered in an instant. Including Kakashi and my guy, I don't know when, the four purple flame formations were densely packed with ninjas. Outside the dome where the four purple flame formations were located, a large number of people gathered. These are the names of the villagers who came to watch the Chunin exam. Everyone held a photo of Sarutobi Hiruzen and Shimura Danzo reveling in their hands. Those who went to their relatives because of the Nine Tails rebellion were all horrified, and some even shouted excitedly because they couldn't control their anger. Shode-sama, Nide-sama, kill Sarutobi Hiruzen, the devil, and avenge our family. And don't let that Shimura Danzo go. With the first one, there will be a second one. The people who used to worship the third generation instantly let go. Suddenly, the whole audience cursed. Hearing this, Sarutobi Hiruzen, who always valued his reputation the most, felt as if the sky had fallen. With a loud bang, it was like being struck by lightning. His steps were unstable, and he almost collapsed to the ground. Are these still the Konoha people who worshipped and loved him in the past? Why does he look so much like a devil who wants to kill him? Okay, Shode-sama, Nide-sama, the next battle is up to you. I have finished what I want to say. Orochimaru, you should start your peak battle quickly. Kainai turned and looked at Orochimaru. At this moment, only Orochimaru was under the control of Jinghua Shuiyu, so he didn't know that the four purple flame formation and even the dome were surrounded by people. In his cognition, there were only 5 people who heard Kainai talking to the 3 Hokage, including him and the 4 sound ninjas. Hearing Kainai's words, Orochimaru stretched out his thick and long snake head and licked his lips, with a sinister smile on his face. Kainai-kun is really a bad taste. This old man is about to die, and you still don't forget to expose his shortcomings. Let's get started. As he spoke, Orochimaru took out 2 kyune with talismans engraved on them from his waist and buried them in the backs of the heads of the 2 Hokages. The latter 2 immediately wiped out the consciousness of the dead. Then I'll leave first. Kainai smiled faintly, summoned a crow, and released Jinghua Shuiyu again in front of everyone. Asshole, where are you going? For Konoha, today I will make you stay here completely. Seeing that Kainai wanted to leave, Sarutobi Hiruzen, who had completely lost his reputation and had nothing to lose, quickly formed seals with both hands. Without hesitation, he used the Shiki Fujin. Unlike the original work, he had gone through a tough battle with the first and second generations. At this moment, Sarutobi Hiruzen maintained his best physical condition and chakra. When Sarutobi Hiruzen finished his seal and put his hands together, a huge phantom of the god of death suddenly appeared behind him. Seal. Sarutobi Hiruzen shouted, and the phantom of the god of death suspended behind him stretched out its claws, suddenly pierced through Sarutobi Hiruzen's back, and then released from his chest, using his body as a medium, and suddenly grabbed Kanai. Only the caster and the target of the spell can see the phantom of the god of death. In the stunned eyes of Orochimaru and even the people in the field, Kanai, who was so powerful just now, had no time to react, and fell down slowly, his eyes dim, and completely lost his vitality. Is this the ninjutsu that Master Kanai said to die together? It's really dangerous. Seeing Kanai fall, Yi Kang's face did not show any worry, but his brows were slightly frowned, because she knew that her lord Kanai would not die under such a trick. After seeing that Kanai's soul was sealed by himself, Sarutobi Hiruzen finally showed a happy smile on his ferocious old face, and laughed crazily. Haha. Dead. This damn traitor is finally dead. Died in the hands of this old man. What is going on? What did the old man of the third generation do just now? He was able to kill Kanai? A drop of cold sweat broke out on Orochimaru's forehead. Then he thought of Kanai's illusion, and Orochimaru forced a smile on his face, pretending to be calm and said, Kanai is really a joker, and he is playing dead again. Don't shout, Orochimaru. No matter how powerful this kid's illusion is, he can't survive, because his soul has been sealed by this old man. However, before he could finish his words, Sarutobi Hiruzen's voice rang out from the opposite side. What does this mean? Orochimaru was shocked. He had never heard of a ninjutsu that could seal the soul. PS. The third update. Please recommend and monthly votes. Chapter 168. The winner is finally decided. The old monkey dies with his eyes wide open. What do you mean? It means literally. Orochimaru, you won't only play with the dead and insult the previous Hokage. Next, I will clean up the mess. Sarutobi Hiruzen kept his hands in the seal position and rushed towards Orochimaru and the two Hokages. At this moment, Sarutobi Hiruzen felt that he had returned to his youthful days. At that time, he had not yet decayed. He was still Sarutobi Hiruzen who was willing to sacrifice his life for Konoha. And the Konoha people outside who were scolding him, cursing him, and mocking him seemed to be moved by him. They stopped scolding and began to cheer for him, the Hokage. Of course, these were just his fantasies, because it involved the Ninetales Rebellion, his dead family members, and his own interests. No one would be as saintly as Naruto to forgive his mortal enemy. In the eyes of many people present, especially those who lost their families because of the Ninetales Rebellion, Sarutobi Hiruzen was just killing people to silence them. On the contrary, as if they had overcome their fear of Orochimaru, everyone began to cheer for the first and second Hokage who had been controlled. No, don't come over here. Stop him quickly. Facing the third generation who was rushing towards him, Orochimaru finally felt scared. He could see that Sarutobi Hiruzen was not showing off, and that the body could be impersonated, but the soul could not be fake. If Sarutobi Hiruzen was not right, I'm afraid Chiya's soul might really be sealed. The first and second generations who had been completely controlled received the order from Orochimaru, and rushed towards Sarutobi Hiruzen without mercy. A battle between the weakest Hokage was officially kicked off. At the same time, outside the Konoha village, the battle between the two pillars and the gradually out of control Gaara had already begun. Sakura, a Burame Shino, and the ninja dog Parker who went to chase the two pillars happened to meet Jiraiya, Tsunade, Naruto, and Gekko Gale who were riding back on the big toad. Hyuga Neji and Shikamaru stayed behind to fight the chasing Otonin. Naruto, come with us to find Sasuke, or, if we keep going on like this, Sasuke will die. As soon as Sakura saw Naruto, she started crying, as if she had grabbed a life-saving straw. Shikamaru and Neji, who were covering for them, didn't care anymore. Their problem of I'll ask for help, if I need it, and I'll take care of it, if I don't came back. What's wrong with Sasuke? Naruto was stunned. Jiraiya added, what's the situation in Konoha now? The ninja dog Puck explained. Orochimaru pretended to be the fourth Kazekage and used the sand ninja to launch a surprise attack, but was discovered by Kakashi. The sand ninja gave up the invasion of Konoha, but Sasuke still went after the orange-haired sand ninja kid. Kakashi said that the sand ninja is very likely the sand ninja's Jinchuriki and may go berserk at any time. Let's hurry up and catch Sasuke back. Oh, by the way, Niji and Shikamaru are fighting with a dozen sound ninjas to cover us. I'm afraid the situation is extremely critical. Please go and reinforce them quickly. Woof. That guy Orochimaru, Jiraiya said with a light click of his tongue, and then listened to Tsunade on the side. What about Kai? What about Fujiwara Chiya? Has that guy shown up? As soon as Tsunade finished speaking, Karen and her daughter, as well as Shizune and Chinatsu standing behind them, also looked worried. Ninja Dog Parker shook his head. I don't know. When we left the village, we didn't see Fujiwara Chiya appear. Hearing this, Tsunade and the other 5 girls breathed a sigh of relief. Jiraiya was the same. As Chiya said, he knew the purpose of Orochimaru's action and Sarutobi Hiruzen's thoughts. If Fujiwara Chiya hadn't run out to cause trouble, he didn't want to interfere in the life and death duel between Orochimaru and Sarutobi Hiruzen, which was a matter of mutual consent. Without further delay, Tsunade, I'm going to save those 2 brats named Niji and Shikamaru. You are the future 5th generation Hokage. You quickly go to the Chunin exam arena with Hayate, Shizune and the others, to take charge of the situation. Naruto, you go with Parker and the others. Soon, Jiraiya made the division of labor. Everyone set off in 3 groups, heading towards different destinations. When Tsunade and her group arrived at the Chunin exam arena, the battle in the 4 purple flame array had already come to an end. Just like in the original work, Sarutobi Hiruzen is using 2 shadow clones to seal the 1st and 2nd Hokage. His real body is sealing Orochimaru, but during the sealing process, Sarutobi Hiruzen is unfortunately stabbed from behind by Orochimaru's Kusanagi sword, forcing Hiruzen to be unable to extract Orochimaru's soul. The 2 are caught in a difficult tug-of-war. Because of the effect of the mirror flower and water moon, the people in the field did not see how tragic the battle of Sarutobi Hiruzen was. Most people are still cheering for the 1st and 2nd Hokage. Until Tsunade's arrival, the weird atmosphere in the field was finally broken. She shouted, "Grandfather! 2nd grandfather!" At this time, the souls of the 2 Hokage were about to be pulled out and finally regained consciousness. The body of the impure world reincarnation gradually collapsed, and the dust began to scatter. The 1st generation of Hokage said oh, and a relieved smile appeared on his face covered with dust and cracks. It turned out to be Zio Tsuna. You have grown up. I never thought I could see you again before leaving. The 2nd generation of Hokage also showed a faint smile on his face. Then, Konoha is in your hands. After that, the souls of the 2 Hokage were extracted and sealed into the stomach of the god of death. Grandfathers, don't worry, I will protect Konoha. Tsunade wiped her tears, looked around, and saw that the ground was full of extremely eye-catching photos of Konoha F4. She asked loudly, who can tell me what happened here? Hearing this, Kakashi came over. Master Tsunade, this is what happened. As he spoke, he told him the evidence of the murder of the Kazekage that Kanai gave him, and now the 2 Hokage were sealed. While the 2 were talking, Sarutobi Hiruzen could no longer hold on. He scolded Orochimaru. Orochimaru, it seems that I'm destined to not be able to take you away today. But you are addicted to ninjutsu and proud of ninjutsu. This kind of punishment is most suitable for you. I will take away all your techniques. What did you say? Orochimaru was shocked, and his long golden pupils instantly dilated. Ah, no. In his horrified eyes, Sarutobi Hiruzen controlled the death god summoned by the Shikifujin, and cut off the sole of his arms. And at the moment, when Orochimaru's arms were cut off, Kanai on the side suddenly stood up. Oh, it's really a touching master-disciple relationship. To kill each other, they would do this. Sarutobi Hiruzen, who wanted to educate his disciple Orochimaru before dying, instantly widened his eyes, his pupils gradually dimmed, and he fell down with his eyes open. PS. The 4th update, please recommend and monthly votes. Chapter 169, Orochimaru is blackmailed every day. On the dome. At this moment, the 4 purple flame formation was covered by the dense forest created by the 1st Hokage's would release. It was impossible to see what was happening inside. In the dense forest, with a puff, the 3rd Hokage suddenly spat out a large mouthful of blood. As the souls in Orochimaru's hands were cut off, the god of death gradually devoured the souls of him and Orochimaru's hands. Sarutobi Hiruzen's vision began to blur. He held his breath, and looked at Kanai, saying with difficulty, "Why? I clearly sealed your soul. Why are you still alive? What? Do you want to die with a clear mind?" Kanai smiled and threw out the corpse of a crow. "Okay, I'll let you die with a clear mind. You are performing the Uzumaki clan's super powerful sealing technique, the Shikifujin, right? It can summon the god of death, and then the god of death will use a sword to cut off the target's soul and devour it in its belly, thereby sealing the target's soul. The size of the sealed soul is determined by the caster, and the target caught by the Shikifujin cannot use the technique. The 4th Hokage used this trick to seal half of the 9 tails. In fact, I have been preventing you from using this trick a long time ago. Don't forget that the title of Phantom God was given to me when you use me. Since you are a Phantom God, it is a piece of cake to use illusion to change your vision and make you mistake the crow for me. In fact, you sealed just a crow. Otherwise, do you think it is so easy to seal me with your little power? There is another sentence that Kanai did not say, that is, even if he really faces the god of death, he can use his Zanpakuto to kill it. Damn it, after hearing this, Sarutobi Hiruzen seemed to be a deflated ball. His eyes gradually dimmed, and he looked at Kanai deeply again, and turned his eyes to Orochimaru, with unwillingness and humiliation and a trace of master-disciple relationship with Orochimaru. He slowly closed his eyes and fell down. At the same time, Orochimaru's eyes were bloodshot, and he was roaring with resentment. "Bastard, you old man, give my hands back to me. Bastard, give them back to me." Just like Danzo, whose arms were cut off by Kanai, Orochimaru's arms were not cut off, but his arms were turned into the charred state after Danzo's arms were connected at a speed visible to the naked eye. Seeing that Sarutobi Hiruzen was really dead, Orochimaru was desperate and shouted to Kanai, "Kanai-kun, come on, I know you have a ninjutsu that can cut off souls. Come on, help me take my hands back. I will give you whatever you want." Wow. I didn't expect you to know this. Did that old guy Danzo tell you? Kanai showed a playful smile on his face, but unfortunately, your hands have been swallowed by the god of death. Unless someone is willing to sacrifice himself to summon the god of death, I can't take back the soul of your hands. And even if someone is willing to sacrifice himself, no one can guarantee that the summoned god of death will not be the one that sealed your hands. I can't do anything either. Hearing this, a flash of despair flashed in Orochimaru's pupils. At this moment, he could only bark helplessly. The burning sensation in his hands made his face sweat. "Ah, my arms feel like they are burnt. This damn old thing. Okay, stop scolding. Our agreement has been fulfilled." The death of Sarutobi Hiruzen foreshadows the end of Konoha's collapse plan. Now you should hand over what I need. Kanai waved at Orochimaru. You hearing Kanai asking him for Flying Thunder God, Orochimaru, who had already lost both arms, was so angry that his lungs were about to explode and his pale face was blue and purple. He had seen shameless people, but he had never seen such shameless people. From what the 3rd generation said to Kanai just now, he guessed that Kanai seemed to have known about this ninjutsu called Shikifujin for a long time and had prepared and dealt with it early. But he just didn't tell him. Watching his hands being sealed, this guy seemed to have planned it from the beginning. Now he even shamelessly asked him for Flying Thunder God. This guy is simply not a human being. Why? Do you want to regret it? That will be troublesome. Kanai narrowed his eyes slightly, and the smile on his face gradually faded. You have lost both hands now. What if I cut off the sole of your legs? While speaking, Kanai had already drawn his Zanpakuto with a shadow on his face and walked slowly towards Orochimaru like the god of death. Looking at Kanai walking towards him, Orochimaru felt his scalp tingling at this moment. His hands were already disabled. If he were to disable his legs, he would be in trouble. In desperation, Orochimaru just gritted his teeth and swallowed his anger. Okay, I'll give it to you. It would be better if you did it earlier. Kanai smiled, and a gentle smile bloomed on his face again, and sheathed a knife. At the same time, outside the dome, Kakashi knelt on one knee in front of Tsunade, reporting the current situation to her. Tsunade-sama. No, Godame Hokage-sama, this is the situation. Currently, the people of Sunagakure have evacuated the village, and the invading Otonin, except for Kabuto Yakushi, have also been dealt with. Fortunately, the losses suffered this time are not great, which is a blessing in disguise. At this point, Kakashi glanced at the dense jungle in the four purple flame formation. Now the first and second generations have been sealed, and only the battle between the third generation and Orochimaru has yet to be decided. What about Chiya? How is Fujiwara Chiya? Tsunade asked anxiously. Kakashi was stunned. He didn't know why the newly appointed Hokage suddenly cared so much about Chiya, a rebellious ninja. However, before Kakashi could reply, Yuhi came over with lifeless eyes and said with red eyes, because Chiya exposed the secrets of the third generation and Anzo. At the beginning of the battle, he was attacked by the third generation and sealed with a special sealing technique. How could it be? Tsunade covered her red lips with her jade hands. Her pupils shrank immediately, her eyes were empty, and she recalled the death of her brother Naruto in her mind. The hemophobia that had been cured by giving birth to Chiksha relapsed again, and her hands began to tremble slightly. Once again, is it time to see the person you cherish most die in front of you again? Just when the two women were heartbroken, the four purple flame formations on the dome suddenly untied. Then, the Sound 4 escorted Orochimaru and rushed out of the dense forest. Where are you going? The Anbu directly under the third generation, who were previously repelled by Chiya's chakra, saw Orochimaru and others trying to escape, and immediately stepped forward to chase them, but were trapped by the chakra spider silk spit out by Kidomaru from the Sound 4. PS. First update, please recommend and vote for me. Thanks to Shuichang for the 5,000 starting coins. Thanks to AOI Bobby for the 7,000 starting coins. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 170, Kakashi's Suspicion, The Unwilling Nezuko. Hokage-sama, should we go after them? Kakashi looked at Orochimaru in the distance, then at Tsunade, who was obviously not right, and asked hesitantly. Tsunade did not answer, but stood there trembling. Just when she was about to collapse physically and mentally, Kanai's voice suddenly rang out from above the dome. Hey, everyone in Konoha, your beloved third Hokage-sama has just died as he wished in the hands of his most beloved disciple, and is now waiting for you to worship him as the hero who died to protect Konoha. Yuhi looked in the direction of the voice, and saw Kanai standing at the edge of the dome. Her beautiful pink eyes lit up instantly. Kanai. Tsunade half lowered her head, clenched her hands into fists, her hair hanging freely, her eyes covered by shadows, and because of the excessive force, the joints between her fingers creaked. At the same time, Yikang and the crowd retorted according to Kanai's prior arrangement. Sarutobi Hiruzen is not our Hokage. He and Anzo killed Konoha White Fang and the fourth Hokage for their own selfishness, created the Nine Tails Rebellion, and killed our families. Now, for their own reputation, they have plunged Konoha into war again. We don't have such a Hokage. The people of Konoha around were all stunned when they heard this. As the saying goes, when a wall falls, everyone pushes it. One of the civilians who lost his relatives on the night of the Ninetales hesitated for a while, and also plucked up the courage to raise his right hand and shouted, Sarutobi Hiruzen is not our Hokage. Humans are social animals, and like to follow the crowd. When there is the first and second, there will naturally be the third and fourth. Suddenly, the whole audience was filled with the voice of Sarutobi Hiruzen is not our Hokage. Yikang shouted again, our Hokage is the fifth Hokage Tsunade-sama. Many people followed suit and shouted, our Hokage is the fifth Hokage Tsunade-sama. Down with Sarutobi Hiruzen and Shimura Danzo, X2. Long live the people of Konoha, X2. Down with Sarutobi Hiruzen and Shimura Danzo, X2. Long live the fifth Hokage Tsunade-sama, X2. Yikang shouted, and the people of Konoha followed suit, and finally even the wavering Konoha ninjas started shouting. Kakashi looked at the high spirits of the people and ninjas, and while he felt that his father's injustice had been redressed, he couldn't help but feel a headache. This is troublesome. While the people of Konoha were excited, Tsunade, who had been silent for a long time, suddenly stood up and stomped on the ground. The whole earth trembled instantly, and Tsunade's angry shout rang out at the same time. "Shut up, everyone." The scene suddenly became quiet, and the next moment, Tsunade rushed towards Kainai standing on the dome like a cannonball, with tears in the corners of her eyes, and swung a strange punch. "Fujiwara Chiya, you bastard. Is it because I pretended to be dead and didn't tell her in advance? Let this tiger woman calm down." Seeing the fist close at hand, Kainai smiled, without any intention of dodging, and covered the face where Tsunade was about to hit with a ball of armed color. Let her punch fall. Boom. In the shocked eyes of everyone, Kainai was like a kite with a broken string, and was knocked off the roof by a punch. His body went straight through the dome next door, and finally fell into the forest. Kainai stood up with difficulty, and said weakly, as expected of the future 5th Hokage, "You can actually find my true body from my illusion. I, Kainai, would like to call you the strongest Hokage after the first generation of Naruto. See you later." After speaking, Kainai threw a smoke bomb on the spot, and the smoke dissipated, and he was no longer seen in the forest. On the dome, Tsunade looked at Kainai, who was punched away by her and then disappeared. A sense of unreality suddenly emerged in her heart. She actually hit Kainai and beat this guy away. And under the dome, there was a sudden roar of thunderous voices from the people of Konoha. "Wow, is this our future Hokage? So strong." Even the powerful rebel ninja that the second Hokage admitted was no match for her was punched away by her. Might Guy was also very happy and excited. He patted Kakashi on the shoulder and exclaimed, "Kakashi, look, Lady Tsunade actually broke the illusion of that guy Chiya. She is worthy of being one of the legendary 3 ninjas." Kakashi's mouth twitched under his mask. "I don't think that is the case." And having said that, his expression suddenly became solemn, and he turned his head to look at the man who had taken the lead in shouting that Sarutobi Hiruzen was not worthy of being Hokage. He then formed seals with his hands, and with a bang, the smoke dissipated, and the whole person disappeared on the spot. Is that true? It seems that the man is in the same group with Kainai, and it is very likely that he is the female ninja that we met in the Land of Waves. So, what is your relationship with Kainai, Lady Tsunade? Thinking this in his heart, Kakashi looked at Tsunade, who was standing on the dome, and admired by thousands of people, and heard Might Guy beside him say with a blank face, "Kakashi, what did you just say?" "No, nothing." Kakashi shook his head, hoping that it was a blessing, rather than a curse. On the other hand, while Kakashi was doubting the relationship between Kainai and Tsunade, outside the Konoha village, Naruto had already decided the outcome with the runaway Gaara. Although the Sand Ninja had withdrawn from the Konoha collapse plan, in order to test how much strength he had now, the second pillar who had learned that Chidori was like the original work, and he was extremely inflated and clashed with Gaara and the other two. As a result, he was bloody beaten by Gaara, who had transformed into a tailed beast. Finally, Naruto and Sakura arrived in time, and Sakura played the role of a burden as always. He was nailed to the tree trunk by Gaara's sand palm that had transformed into a tailed beast. In order to save Sakura and Nejiru, Naruto and Gaara fought. In the eyes of Nejiru, which contained many complex emotions such as jealousy, envy, unwillingness, and horror, Naruto, who had learned the Rasengan, suppressed Gaara, who had transformed into a tailed beast. In the end, Gaara was forced to perform the art of sleeping and transform into a tailed beast. But he was still defeated by Naruto's summoning of Gamabunta. Why do you do this for others? Childhood memories kept surfacing in his mind. Gaara lay flat on the ground, tilted his head, and looked at Naruto, who was slowly crawling towards him, and asked, Because we are the same. That feeling of being alone is very uncomfortable." Naruto, with tears in the corners of his eyes, recalled his childhood, and started his mouth to mouth. This time he succeeded. Gaara had already been touched when Naruto performed mouth to mouth on Chiya for the first time in the Forest of Death. After this battle with Naruto, he completely recognized himself. With the support of Kankuro and Temari, he embarked on the road back to the village of Sand Village. At this time, the second pillar who had settled Sakura came over. Looking at Naruto, who was unconscious due to chakra exhaustion, he recalled Naruto's previous battles in his mind. The extreme contrast made him unconsciously clench his fists. The second pillar gritted his teeth and thought to himself, Naruto, how strong are you? PS. Second update. Please recommend on monthly votes. There are 2 more updates later. Chapter 171. Koharu is pregnant. Konoha Hokage building. Because Konoha Ref 4 once reveled here, at Tsunade's request, the Anbu Ninja Tenzo exhausted all his chakra and used wood release to renovate the entire office and replace it with new furniture. Tsunade sat on the new Hokage office chair, looking at the pile of documents on the desk and having a headache. Shizune stood on Tsunade's left, holding a new stack of documents in her hand, looking at the sad-looking Tsunade, and smiled bitterly. As for Uchiha, she sat bored on the blanket laid by Shizune, teasing Tunton. Knock knock. There was an untimely knock on the door outside. Come in. Tsunade weakly put down the documents in her hand, sighing in her heart, this Hokage is really not a human being. If it weren't for her little man and the last words of her 2 grandfathers, she would have the urge to run away with her daughter and Shizune. With a creak, the office door opened, and Kakashi walked in with my guy, Lady Tsunade. Tell me, what's the matter? Tsunade yawned and said lazily. Kakashi said respectfully, at present, the people of Konoha have been appeased. But those photos that were lost have been collected according to your order, but because we don't know the exact number, we can't determine whether they have been collected. Also, because of the loss of Akatsuki, the Sand Village has now launched a full surrender to Konoha. They have blamed the attack entirely on Orochimaru. They will send someone to negotiate soon. Tsunade heard a hint of fatigue from Kakashi's words, and a gentle smile suddenly appeared on her face. It's really difficult for you to deal with such miscellaneous things. Originally, these should have been done by those old guys. But now, I guess they are too embarrassed to show up to see people. As for those photos, they haven't been collected, so they haven't been collected. After all, there is no wall that is impenetrable in this world. If they can't be found, they can't be found. Kakashi nodded, sighed lightly, and said hesitantly, there are 2 more things I need to ask your opinion on. Tsunade held her cheek with her jade hand and asked with interest, go on. Kakashi looked at Tsunade's beautiful fair face and said seriously, the first thing is about the funeral of the 3rd generation. According to the regulations, we should hold a funeral for him according to the standards of Hokage. But because of Chiya, many villagers and ninjas in Konoha were harmed by the Ninetales Rebellion and the Konoha Collapse Plan. They are very resistant to this. What do you say? Tsunade threw the topic back to Kakashi. Kakashi was silent for a moment and sighed. I think it should be held. No matter what mistakes the 3rd Hokage made during his lifetime, he is the former Hokage after all. And most of the mistakes made by the 3rd Hokage are Chiya's one-sided words, and it is impossible to confirm whether they are true or not. No matter what, the 3rd Hokage is also the former Hokage, and there are still many people in Konoha who believe in him. We should not let this affect the overall unity of Konoha. Tsunade took a deep breath. You are really a magnanimous person. It is true that you ignored public opinion and forced your father to death. The dead are the greatest, and if my father were still alive, he would surely support my decision. Kakashi showed a relieved smile on his face. Then do as you say. No matter what he was like when he was alive, he is still my teacher, and the dead are the greatest. Tsunade nodded and continued, what about the second thing? Kakashi hesitated and said, the second thing is about Danzo-sama. No, it's about the treatment of Shimura Danzo. I will give you a satisfactory explanation for this matter. Tsunade did not answer. It was really that the old guy Danzo was too deeply rooted in Konoha and knew many secrets that even Sarutobi Hiruzen did not know. If Danzo was pushed into a corner, no one could guarantee what he would do. As a Hokage, Tsunade could not just seek short-term benefits. This matter needed to be considered in the long run. Even if she wanted to catch him, she had to wait until her little man came back. Yes, Hokage-sama. Kakashi nodded and turned his head to look at Might Guy behind him. Gay, it's your turn. Might Guy swallowed hard when he heard this. Because he was only the size of an acorn, he was not good at dealing with women, so he stammered and told the story of Rock Lee. After getting Tsunade's answer of I will go to Konoha Hospital tomorrow, he walked out of the Hokage's office with a sigh of relief. Not long after the two left, Jiraiya walked in. Following him in, there were two black-cloaked men who were wearing black cloaks and their true faces could not be seen. "Hey, Tsunade, are you used to being the Hokage?" Jiraiya sat down on the sofa against the wall and said carelessly, "If you like, you can take over." Tsunade rolled her eyes at Jiraiya in annoyance. Jiraiya laughed, "Please spare me, I can't stand these rules and regulations. It's more comfortable to continue traveling instead of sitting in the office." Tsunade glanced at the two men in black who followed Jiraiya in, and narrowed her eyes slightly. "You didn't come here to say something sarcastic to me, did you? Of course, both of you, take off your disguises," Jiraiya said to the two men in black. Hearing this, the two men in black did not lift their cloaks, but just looked at Shizune and Chinatsu behind Tsunade. Seeing that they did not move, Jiraiya added, "These two are Tsunade's disciples, Shizune and her daughter Chinatsu. There are no outsiders. Don't worry." Hearing this, the two men in black reluctantly took off their black robes, revealing two old faces of a man and a woman, who turned out to be the two major advisors of Konoha, Utain Koharu and Mito Kadoen. Seeing the faces of the two people clearly, Tsunade was stunned at first, and then she recalled that Kanai had tricked them, and a playful smile suddenly bloomed on her face. Tsunade said gloatingly, "Ah, look who I saw. Aren't these the two major advisors of Konoha, Mr. Koharu and Uncle In? You are now famous people in Konoha. Almost every household is discussing your love history with the old man and that old guy Danzo. With Jiraiya, a sultry pervert who only dares to peek at girls taking a bath, but dares not put it into action. You must be still as good as ever. Especially Mr. Koharu." At this point, Tsunade actually stood up and walked in front of Koharu Utain and began to feel her pulse. "Come, let me see if you are pregnant." "Okay, stop fooling around. We came to you for serious business this time." Koharu Utain shook off Tsunade's hand in dissatisfaction. However, at this moment, Tsunade was stunned. She was shocked and lost her voice. "Mr. Koharu, what's wrong with me?" Koharu Utain's face froze, and she suddenly had an ominous premonition in her heart. With a chuckle, Tsunade suddenly laughed, turned around and walked to the Hokage's office, picked up Chinatsu who was quietly playing with Pig, and said with a smile, "Congratulations, Teacher Koharu, you are pregnant." Counting the days, it has been nearly a month. PS, the third update, please recommend and vote for me. Chapter 172, Punishment of Danzo. One of the top advisors of the Hidden Leaf village in the Land of Fire, the over 70-year-old Uchiha Koharu is pregnant. When this was said, everyone in the Hokage's office, including Jiraiya, widened their eyes, their jaws almost dropped to the ground, and their eyes were shattered. Zio-Zayana-chan, are these true? Mito Kadoen's voice trembled, his old face flushed, and he looked at Uchiha Koharu excitedly. He couldn't believe that he could have a child at such an old age. "I'll tell you about this later." Uchiha Koharu also blushed. She was a medical ninja, so how could she not know whether she was pregnant or not? But she just didn't know whose child it was. What Mito Kadoen didn't know was that during the carnival, he had fainted for a while. Then Sarutobi Hiruzen and Shimura Danzo took his place one after another. Originally, Shimura Danzo was only interested in Sarutobi Hiruzen. He didn't want to take Mito Kadoen's place. After all, he already had Sarutobi Hiruzen in his heart. But because I love Ichijo Shiba too much, Danzo was a handsome man in his youth. Under the influence of I love you, Koharu Uchiha lost himself. After Sarutobi Hiruzen ended, he forcibly gave the position of Mito Kadoen to Danzo. Until now, Mito Kadoen is still in the dark. After all, he is too embarrassed to look at those photos. Hearing the conversation between the two consultants, Jiraiya's mouth twitched fiercely, and he said in a suppressed smile, "Congratulations to you two. Jiraiya, be serious. From now on, we have to talk about business." Uchiha Koharu glared at Jiraiya with his old eyes, then turned his gaze to Tsunade, cleared his throat, and changed the subject. "Tsunade, how do you plan to deal with Hiruzen and Danzo?" Upon hearing this, Tsunade looked at Jiraiya and threw the question back to Uchiha Koharu. "I wonder if the two consultants have any good suggestions?" Mito Kadoen coughed lightly and said seriously, "Indeed, Hiruzen did a lot of wrong things in the past, but I can tell you clearly The Ninetales Rebellion has absolutely nothing to do with Hiruzen. So I hope that as the 5th Hokage, you can give him a decent look. We two old guys are begging you. As they spoke, the two consultants bowed to Tsunade. You two advisors, there is no need to do this. Kakashi has just come to me, and I have already agreed. The old man's funeral will be held as usual, according to the standards of the Hokage. Tsunade said lightly. Hearing this, Utane Koharu and Mito-Kadoen immediately breathed a sigh of relief. This was the only thing that the two old guys could do for Sarutobi Hiruzen. Then Tsunade said, then what about Danzo? Let's not talk about whether the Ninetales Rebellion is related to him, nor whether he killed White Fang. Just the fact that he transplanted my grandfather's cells and so many Sharingans is not so easy to expose. You should know that all the ninjas and people of Konoha are watching. If you are partial and corrupt at this moment, I'm afraid the people of Konoha will lose their hearts. Utane Koharu and Mito-Kadoen looked at each other, and a solemn look flashed across their eyes. Utane Koharu tentatively said, then put him in confinement? It seems that Danzo's confinement has not been lifted until now. Tsunade shrugged slightly. Remove all his positions? The two advisors looked at each other again, and Mito-Kadoen added. Do you think he still has a position? And even if it is revoked, as long as that disgusting tongue trouble root seal is still there, then those roots under him will still obey him. Tsunade sneered. Utane Koharu frowned and asked, then what are you going to do? Mitomanen followed her husband's lead and added, Tsunade. Oh no, Lord 5th Hokage, don't do anything rash. Konoha has just experienced the chaos caused by Orochimaru, and it can't stand it any longer. If you force it, Danzo might become desperate. Tsunade said sternly, it's because you old guys have been indulging him and protecting him that this guy has been acting recklessly and wantonly. At this point, Tsunade casually pulled out a stack of information from the drawer and threw it on the table. Look, take a good look at what Danzo has done over the years. Let's not talk about the distant past, let's talk about the recent one. Fujiwara Chiya. I'm sure you all know about this young man who has turned Konoha upside down recently. Originally, he should have been an outstanding ninja of Konoha, making contributions to protecting Konoha. But Danzo turned out to be different. In exchange for sparing the life of his best friend in the Uchiha clan, he went to let Uchiha Itachi, the guy who killed his father and mother, to wipe out the Uchiha clan for no reason. In the end, he didn't spare the life of his best friend at all. Not only that, he wanted to kill him. Would they agree to this? Danzo was primarily responsible for the annihilation of the Sarutobi clan and the Shimura clan. And there's Kabuto under Orochimaru, the adopted son of the former orphanage director Yakushi Nono. Just because he had been in the route before, he threatened him with the orphanage funds in order to make him a spy. In the end, he also designed for Kabuto Yakushi and Nono to kill each other, causing Kabuto Yakushi, a Konoha ninja with great talent, to accidentally kill his adoptive mother, and was forced to side with Orochimaru, becoming the opposite side of Konoha. At this point, Tsunade looked at Jiraiya. You should know about the Akatsuki organization, which is composed of all S-class rebel ninjas. Have you investigated that organization? Jiraiya nodded and asked with a frown. Do you think I have been just gambling all these years? Tsunade's eyes flashed with guilt, and she avoided Jiraiya's gaze and said sternly, as far as I know, Akatsuki was originally a truly peace-loving organization. But it was because of the instigation of this guy Danzo that this organization turned to darkness, and now it is hiding behind the scenes, eyeing Konoha and waiting for an opportunity to take revenge. Tell me, how much hatred has Danzo brought to Konoha? I'm not an old man, and I don't need Danzo to do those dirty things for me. So I will never let Danzo do whatever he wants. So what are you going to do? Jiraiya finally spoke. At this moment, his face was no longer as playful as before, but became extremely solemn. Tsunade recalled what Chiya had said. Konoha has suffered from Danzo for a long time. He has spread too much hatred to Konoha. Although he keeps saying that he is doing it for Konoha, he is doing it for his own sake. Therefore, he must be severely punished. How to punish severely? Jiraiya continued to ask. Tsunade said solemnly, disband the root. Correct. The disband I said is not a nominal disband like the third generation old man, but a real disband. In addition, the Sharingan and the arm that has been transferred to my grandfather's cells must also be handed over. Considering that he is a veteran of Konoha, I can let him spend the rest of his time under house arrest. Then you are going to kill him. Jiraiya was speechless, sighed helplessly, turned his head to look at the two advisors, and asked in a deep voice, "What do you think?" This Uchiha Koharu and Mitokado smiled bitterly. Indeed, although Tsunade's punishment was heavy, it was also the most righteous. After all, the bad things that Danzo did were even more outrageous than Orochimaru. But they also know Danzo's character. Danzo's greatest wish is to become Hokage. For this, he can do anything. Once the root is truly disbanded and the arm is taken away, it is equivalent to destroying Danzo's hope of becoming Hokage. I'm afraid that before this order is delivered, he will have already rebelled. PS. 4th update. Please recommend and vote for me. Chapter 173. It's really easy to destroy Danzo. Part 1. Uchiha Koharu and Mitokado left. In the end, they still failed to stop Tsunade's order to punish Danzo. Because the Konoha rivalry was made public, the status of the Hokage's senior advisor in Konoha plummeted, and they were unable to stop it. In the end, they could only leave with loss and hesitation. You are really messing around. Jiraiya looked at Tsunade's unquestionable look and sighed helplessly. Tsunade said sternly, "New Konoha, new Hokage, need a new atmosphere. If we need to look ahead and behind like the old man in everything we do, just because we are worried about what Danzo will do, or to find someone to blame for ourselves, and we only care about the gains and losses of the moment, and indulge endlessly, then what is the difference between this Konoha and the past? Then you should do your best." Jiraiya stood up, rubbed his forehead in distress, his face suddenly became solemn, looked at Tsunade, and said seriously, "Tsunade, I need to ask you for something." Tsunade was stunned. "What?" Jiraiya said in a deep voice. Originally, Naruto was entrusted to Kakashi by the old man for surveillance. This was undoubtedly a very correct choice, but now it is probably to the point that even Kakashi can't handle it. After the funeral of the third generation is over, I hope that Naruto can be handed over to me for guidance. Is it because of Akatsuki? Tsunade's face also became serious. This is an organization that even Kanai was unwilling to reveal too much to him. This shows the danger of this organization, and there may even be a person stronger than Kanai. Yeah. Jiraiya nodded and continued, "From your conversation with the two consultants just now, I believe you also know something about Akatsuki. I have been monitoring Orochimaru since he fled the village. Because I know that guy will come back sooner or later. So at the beginning, I was only wary of Orochimaru. Later, Orochimaru joined a certain organization. The name is Akatsuki." Tsunade frowned and asked, "Then do you have any information about this organization?" Jiraiya shook his head. "I don't know much about the details. I only know that this is a small organization composed of 11 ninjas. Until Kanai appeared in the Chunin exam, there was no action. They were just accepting commissions from some countries and conducting espionage activities. But the problem is that the members of that organization, almost all of them are wanted by various countries, have committed heinous crimes, and have 1 or 2 S-level criminals with quirks. Kanai, who turned the village upside down not long ago, and Itachi, who once wiped out the Uchiha clan, are among them. Orochimaru was once a member of the group, but for some unknown reason he withdrew, and was even hunted down by several Akatsuki members, including Chiya, and was in danger several times. It was during that period of time that the organization began to travel around the ninja world in groups of 2, collecting things like ninjutsu. Speaking of this, I think you should understand how dangerous that group of guys is. They definitely don't gather together to do any volunteer work, but have some kind of plot." Tsunade continued to ask, "Is it the tailed beast in Naruto's body?" Jiraiya turned his head to look at Tsunade, most of his face covered by shadows, and said in a deep voice, "It's not difficult to guarantee that there is no possibility. After all, it's the 9 tails with the strongest chakra. Perhaps among the many pieces of information collected by that organization, the tailed beast is one of them. One day, Naruto must always pay attention to his own life to stay alive. This is his fate as the 9 tails Jinchuriki." At this point, Jiraiya slowly walked to the door of the office, opened the door, and turned his back to Tsunade. "I will talk to Kakashi about this matter later." In addition, the same thing applies to Sasuke. Kakashi will need to teach him how to use the Sharingan in the future, because Itachi is also in that organization. After that, Jiraiya walked out of the Hokage's office. It's really troublesome. As soon as Jiraiya left, Tsunade put Chinatsu on the desk like a deflated ball, and the whole person collapsed directly on the office chair, slightly closed her beautiful eyes, stretched her waist, and outlined her sexy curves. Kainai, who was hiding in the dark, felt a burst of heat in his heart, and swallowed hard. After a while, Tsunade seemed to have sensed something and suddenly said, "Come out. How did you know I was coming?" Kainai's voice suddenly echoed in the Hokage's office. Shizune felt a trance and blinked subconsciously. When she looked closely, she didn't know when Kainai had appeared beside Tsunade, as if he had been there from the beginning to the end. Kyangsha's eyes lit up, and she jumped off the desk like a fly and threw herself into Kainai's arms. "I've told you so many times that you should call me dad." Kainai sighed helplessly. Although he said so, he still caught his daughter, held her in his arms, and gently stroked her cute little head. Tsunade glanced at Kainai, and a confident smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. "Feeling? What feeling?" Kainai became interested. "A woman's sixth sense. Every time you, a bad guy, show me a lecherous look, I can feel it." Tsunade said nonsense seriously. In fact, she was just a blind cat that met a dead mouse. It was just because I was too annoyed that I wanted to call Kainai over. "Then you are really amazing." Kainai didn't believe her nonsense. He held his daughter and sat on the desk, put her down, and let her rub against him like a treasure. Kainai continued to ask, "So how do you plan to deal with that old guy Danzo? That old guy doesn't seem like the one who will accept punishment calmly. Don't we still have you?" Tsunade lay on Kainai and rubbed like her daughter. "You really know how to order people around." Kainai pinched Tsunade's flammable face and smiled. "Originally, I came here this time just to say hello to you. I plan to take action against that old guy Danzo. After all, leaving him in Konoha is always a time bomb for you. Are you going to kill him?" Tsunade was stunned. "No, now is not the time to kill this old guy." He planned to capture Danzo, seal it in the system space, and leave it to the second pillar to hone his pupil power. After all, he is the second pillar. If he doesn't get beaten up by Danzo, his future will not be perfect. "What are you going to do?" Tsunade was puzzled. A strange look flashed in her bright brown eyes. Kainai smiled and said, "After I capture him, I will seal him up. Then, you can just announce that Danzo has defected. Will you come back after you leave this time?" Tsunade was a little reluctant. Hearing Tsunade's words, Kyangsha, who had just enjoyed it, hurriedly hugged Kainai's neck and cried, "Kainai, don't go. P.S. First update, please recommend and vote for me. Chapter 174 It's really easy to destroy Danzo, Part 2. Don't worry, I won't stop coming back. I will still come back to see you from time to time." Kainai gently stroked Tsunade's face, then closed his eyes and held his daughter's face so that their foreheads were pressed together. His right eye suddenly opened and the Sharingan was activated. Kyangsha felt dazed for a moment, and suddenly, a lot of information appeared in her mind. For the first time, Kainai used the Sharingan and taught her the complete version of the Sharinganju. "Kainai, what was that just now?" Kyangsha's background eyes opened wide, and her cherry mouth opened into an O shape. She didn't expect that her father actually had such strange eyes. Kainai made a shushing gesture and smiled softly. "This will be a little secret between us in the future." Secret. Kyangsha recalled the forbidden love between a father and a daughter that she saw at a stall when she was shopping with her mother in the past. Her face instantly turned red, and heat came out of her head. Even her neck was covered with a layer of pink. "Hey, you bastard, what the hell did you say to my daughter, you perverted father?" Seeing her daughter showing such a shy look, Tsunade had no idea what Chinatsu was thinking. She snatched her from Kainai's arms and glared at Kainai fiercely. Kainai smiled and said, "Nothing, I just taught my sage mode training method to Chiksha." Upon hearing this, Tsunade immediately became anxious. "Hey, are you crazy? Sage mode is very dangerous and requires a lot of chakra support." and Chiksha is still so young. Refining chakra too early will cause irreversible damage to your body. Kainai explained. Don't worry, my sage mode training method is perfect. It is different from the 3 holy places, which require temporary absorption of natural energy to enter, and there is also a risk of petrification. My sage mode belongs to a brand new training system. It can directly absorb natural energy, transform it in the body, and then store it. To some extent, it is similar to your 100 healings technique, but it is more advanced. Your 100 healings technique only stores your own chakra, while mine stores sage energy. Tsunade suddenly realized, and while she breathed a sigh of relief, she couldn't help but sighed. That's really magical. Then I'll go find that old guy Danzo first. With such a big commotion today, he will definitely get wind of something. Don't go too late and let that old guy run away. Kainai was about to leave, Tsunade quickly grabbed him. Hey, wait a minute, what's wrong? Kainai was stunned. Tsunade blushed and said with a dodgy look, will you come back tonight? Kainai smiled and nodded. Under the jealous eyes of Chiksha, he kissed Tsunade's forehead, made a seal with his right hand, and with a bang, he turned into a puff of smoke, and disappeared in the Hokage's office. The deepest part of the Root organization's underground base. The Root leader Danzo put down the fragrant tea in his hand, and listened quietly to the report of his subordinate, the Root ninja in front of him. For this Konoha collapse plan, almost all of the Akatsuki village, to which Orochimaru belongs, went out in full force, and joined forces with Sand Village, to launch a surprise attack on Konoha. However, Hatake Kakashi realized that the 4th Kazekage was not himself, but was disguised by Orochimaru. After informing the Sand Village elite Jonin Maki, he stopped the Sand Village's actions. Currently, the Akatsuki has been completely defeated, and Konoha as a whole has not suffered much damage. Only the 3rd Hokage was held hostage by Orochimaru, and a battle broke out between the two. Orochimaru used the immature impure world reincarnation to produce the 1st and 2nd Hokage, and fought against the 3rd Hokage. The 3rd Hokage sealed the 2 previous Hokage at the cost of his life, and finally died in battle. Orochimaru was also severely damaged, and fled in defeat under the protection of several Akatsuki. Danzo picked up the fragrant tea, and took a sip. Orochimaru is really stupid. He actually summoned the 1st and 2nd generations in this situation. It was extremely stupid. He wasted 2 powerful fighters that could subvert the ninja world. But this was also expected. It seems that Hiruzen finally got what he wanted. He died as a hero, and in the name of Hokage to protect Konoha. No, it's not like that. The Root ninja shook his head. Fujiwara Chiya appeared in Konoha again. It's that born evil kid again. Danzo frowned, almost bursting with bloodshot eyes. It was this kid who destroyed his family, and made him neither male nor female. In the end, he even gave him an aphrodisiac, so that he, Danzo, had a carnival with Sarutobi Hiruzen, Uchiha Koharu, Mitokado and other old guys in front of the patriarchs of the major families in Konoha. Not only did he lose face, but even his biggest secret, the 1st generation cells in the Sharingan, were exposed. He had no choice but to continue hiding in this dark place, becoming a rat that everyone wanted to kill. The Root ninja said respectfully, yes, Danzo-sama. Fujiwara Chiya not only showed up, but also removed the illusions of the audience who went to watch the Chunin exams. In public, he exposed the scandals of the 3rd Hokage and you. Now even the 3rd Hokage has been despised by many Konoha villagers and ninjas. Scandal? What scandals did I have? Danzo was stunned, and a bad premonition arose in his heart. Danzo-sama, please look, these are the photos scattered on the hands and feet of the villagers. At present, most of them have been ordered to be collected by Tsunade, the newly appointed 5th Hokage, and one of the 3 ninjas. As he spoke, the Root ninja handed over the carnival photos of Konoha F4. Bang, Danzo took it, and looked at it, and the teacup in his hand instantly turned into powder. Photos of Konoha F4's carnival were scattered all over the floor. Danzo waved his cane and smashed the teapot and cups on the table. Arsehole. Arsehole, how dare that guy Fujiwara Chiya. Danzo roared angrily, his eyes were bloodshot, and his pupils were full of bloodshot. Originally, Danzo wanted to rely on his friendship with Uchiha Koharu and others to conceal each other. After all, if this matter was publicized, no one would be in trouble. Then he would use his name as the Dark of the ninja world to intimidate those family patriarchs and make them shut up. Who would have thought that Fujiwara Chiya, that bastard, not only drugged him, but also filmed the whole process and made it public. Now, he can't clear himself. Even if he jumps into the Nanga River, he will be further and further away from the position of Hokage. The more he thought about it, the angrier he became. Danzo even cursed the dead third generation. If Sarutobi Hiruzen, that idiot, had listened to me and killed that kid when he got involved with the Uchiha family, there wouldn't be so much trouble. For a moment, the root members were silent, and no one dared to say a word, for fear of angering the angry master. PS. Second update, please recommend and vote for me. Chapter 175 Danzo becomes a rebel ninja. Go on. Danzo said sternly. Yes. The root ninja's voice was a little trembling, and at the same time, there was a bit of fear. Because of the exposure of these photos, the people of Konoha now have a deep resentment towards you. Not only that, Fujiwara Chiya also used this to make a fuss, saying that you were the masked man who controlled the Ninetales to attack Konoha. Now many people have begun to petition the 5th Hokage to arrest you and bring charges against you. Shimura Danzo sat down slowly, his eyes flashing, and said with disdain, "She dares, just based on Tsunade, that immature girl. If I hadn't eliminated most of the strong contenders for the position of Hokage over the years, would she have been the 5th Hokage? Go, guard the entrance of the base for me. If anyone dares to enter without my permission, he will be killed without mercy." Yes, as soon as this root ninja left, another root ninja walked in. "What's the matter again?" Danzo asked impatiently. "Nothing," the root ninja said recklessly. "Asshole, how dare you talk to me like that?" Danzo was in a very bad mood. His subordinates, who were always smart, suddenly became so ignorant, which made him even more angry. But he soon realized, "You are not C." Of course. The root ninja stomped his right foot on the ground and instantly set up a barrier in the room to isolate the sound and chakra. He took off his mask, revealing the face that often woke Danzo up from his dreams. "Don't move." Kanai stopped Danzo from unsealing his right hand and came to the latter in an instant, waving his Zanpakuto to remove his puppet left arm, cut his right eye, and finally pierced his sealed right palm, pinning him to the table. "Don't move. This sword is the one that cut off your left arm. It is the same as the Shikifujin, which can seal a person's soul. If you move again, I will chop off your head and even the impure world reincarnation will not be able to revive you. What do you want? What about Bing?" Danzo tried to calm down, but the sound of his upper and lower teeth colliding revealed his nervousness. For this kind of person who often talks about ninjas need to sacrifice themselves, he just likes to persuade others to dare to sacrifice themselves in the tone of an experienced person or a superior, and then constantly bring panic to others through coercion and inducement. He has never experienced this kind of taste. Once it was his turn, he couldn't do it, and he couldn't even bear it as well as an ordinary person. Ironically, no matter which world, most of the power is held by this kind of people. Haha, would you care about the life and death of a dog under your command? Okay, don't try to delay time. I have already set up a barrier in this room. Even if you shout your throat out, no one will come back to save you. Kanai said, and tapped Danzo frantically, sealing all the acupuncture points that could be sealed. In front of Shimura Danzo's astonished eyes, he used the disguise technique to transform into Danzo's appearance. Feeling that the chakra in his body could no longer flow, it was impossible for Danzo to perform the 4-symbol seal at this moment. Looking at the shining Zanpakuto and the cold face, that was exactly the same as his own, Danzo's pupils flashed with deep fear. "Don't play too much. I'm the root." Danzo originally wanted to report his own power and threaten Kanai a few words, but after seeing his cold and disdainful eyes, he swallowed the second half of the sentence. "Don't you like to make ninjas sacrifice themselves? Okay, today I will let you sacrifice yourself for Konoha." Kanai sneered and pressed his mute point, used the transformation technique to turn him into the appearance of Root Ninja C, then put on C's clothes, tied him up, and threw him on the ground. Kanai could have thrown Danzo directly into the system warehouse. That way, there would be no need to disguise himself. But doing so would undoubtedly be a gift to Danzo. He wanted to make him sober, make him panic, terrified and terrified so that his mind would completely collapse. He has the right to see his own end. Kuyanai called all the root ninjas in the name of Danzo, and in the name of executing traitor C, he released everyone with the mirror flower and water moon. Finally, on the grounds that he was about to leave the village and lie dormant in secret, he asked the root to surrender directly after the arrival of the Hokageanbu. If one day he failed and died outside, the seal of the root of tongue disaster would automatically disappear. At that time, they would completely obey the orders of the 5th Hokage Tsunade and be loyal to Konoha. As for Danzo's children, they are still young and have not grown up, and they don't have much affection for Danzo. Kuyanai stayed. After the root people dispersed, Kuyanai took Danzo back to his bedroom and untied the mute point. Fujiwara Kuyanai, what are you doing? Danzo shouted hoarsely. His face was distorted and scary. Nothing, I just want to give you a chance to live. How do you feel now? From tomorrow, you will become a rebel ninja of Konoha. My lord Danzo. Kuyanai said with a sneer. You bastard, I shed blood and sweat for Konoha. You can't do this to me. Danzo was going crazy. Once he became a rebel ninja, he would never be able to become a Hokage again. Those can't change your fate. Coming to this world, you have calculated so many people, and it's time to taste the taste of being calculated. Kuyanai discussed with Danzo with a smile. As if Danzo was not miserable enough, in order to increase Danzo's fear, he used the Sharingan to get the tongue trouble root seal from his mouth, planted it on him, and then threw him into the system warehouse. Danzo's fate ended here. The next time he appeared would be 3 years later, to be beaten. Oh no, to train the pupil power for the second pillar. After leaving the root organization base, because Tsunade was still in the Hokage building, Yuhi Kuyanai, as a Konoha senior ninja, was in the hospital to treat the Konoha ninjas who were injured in the battle with the Sound Ninja today. So Kuyanai did not go directly to them. Instead, he returned to the hot spring hotel where he lived with Yikang. It was already evening, and it was a time when the sun was setting. The huge Konoha was shrouded in golden silence. Seeing Kuyanai coming back, Yikang was very considerate and wanted to take off the Akatsuki robe for Kuyanai. However, at this moment, the long-lost traction came from the ring on his hand. Kuyanai and Yikang looked at each other, and the two sat cross-legged on the tatami with their hands in seals, entering the state of the phantom body. It was still the same dark cave, still the same dark space. There was only a Zen lamp in the center, emitting a faint flame. One after another, the illusory figures of the Akatsuki members appeared around the Zen lamp. Hey, everyone, are you all well recently? Kuyanai looked around. This was the first sentence he said, after seeing the Akatsuki members. PS. The third update. Please recommend, please vote, please subscribe. Thanks to the Taste of Broken Lotus Pond for the reward of 1500 starting coins. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.